Hey, what's going on?
We are back and rolling.
We are back and rolling.
Remember us? Of course you do.
Yeah, everybody. We were clearly the most popular show at, I don't even remember, Scott Radio? That was what it was
Scott
called,
Radio.
right? Yeah.
We had at least 12 listeners.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's on a good name.
One tuned in regularly. I know that.
Yeah.
He lived on our floor, and we would come back and he'd tell us about the show.
And how I flubbed my lines.
So we had one listener, and now we're getting back into it. See if we can bump that up. Maybe we'll get 2 listeners.
Dude, if we could have a community of 2 people, like a full forum, that sounds like a full forum right there. We should just.
I know. That's like maximum overdrive in terms of viewer count.
I know. It's 100% increase. That'd be
That's
crazy.
what we're aiming for. We're shooting for the clouds.
We really are. Well, we're hoping to have a little bit better luck in podcast form. I had a lot of fun doing the show with you.
Mm-hmm.
Back, it was 2 whole years ago now. It was the last show we did.
Fall of 2013. Fall 2013. So it's almost 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about right there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we did that. We should probably no, that's nuts. I feel like I still have archives of some of the old shows somewhere.
You probably do. They're on that flash drive that you always brought.
Yeah, they were, but I don't know. See, because my computer crashed. My computer at college crashed, so it's a lot of not a whole lot of luck on that on that front. But yeah, so for those of you who don't know, for new listeners, hopefully, maybe we'll get some new listeners this way.
Yeah.
My name is Alec.
My name is Chris.
And our show, which is a puntastic title, is a Shonen Grump.
Shonen Grump.
Which is a portmanteau of Shonen Jump and the Game Grumps, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that was our reasoning.
Yeah, that was our original intent.
So yeah, as the name might imply, we're a sort of a show that talks about video games and anime and all that kind of jazz.
Mm-hmm. Pop culture stuff too, if it's relevant. And
yeah, we're gonna try to. The problem with our radio show is that we couldn't get an hour. We only had a half-hour slot to talk about all this stuff.
Yeah, a week's worth of content, a week's worth of news. You had to boil it down to 30 minutes and less because we had musical breaks and stuff. So we got 22 minutes once a week to try and compress all kinds of news and information into. So
yeah, that was very constraining. I really had wished we'd gotten an hour block because we could easily have gone an hour and had a great time doing it.
And still had that problem of not enough time.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's so I'm hoping, I'm glad it's a lot more freeing now to be able to just talk to you without worrying about any of that.
Got anybody staring at us through a glass wall in front of a mixer being talk quieter, talk faster. Yeah,
that was weird, actually, now that you mentioned it. It was one of my favorite things would be when we're playing, we were doing a music break, be to look in and see how the people who were recording were reacting to it.
Remember that one dude that with the shaved head that absolutely jammed out to every song we played?
Yeah, that was great.
He'd come out and he'd be like, "I love your music," and he'd be like, "Yeah, thanks." And then it was awesome. And then there were those 2 girls that did the mixing or the soundboard, and they just they could not have cared any less.
Yeah,
about what we were talking about.
There was one girl that was kind of cute that sort of was a little. Maybe this is just hindsight's 20/20, but she was a little flirtatious. But she seemed to like
the dark-haired one.
Yeah.
I think she was a theater person.
Yeah. So. Well, yeah. So, but yeah, it'll be good now. So we don't have to constrain ourselves just to games and anime because we like a lot more other things besides those. A lot of nerd culture things like comics.
Yeah, and I do. I've been collecting comics. I do watch a lot of movies.
Yeah, and there's a lot of those combine all the time too. There's a lot of comic movies coming out, especially this time of year.
Mm-hmm. I just saw X-Men Apocalypse.
Oh yeah,
So I can talk about that in a couple minutes when we get to the segment.
that'll be fun to talk about that because I haven't seen it yet. I actually haven't seen any of the any of the prequel X-Men movies. I actually have seen I don't think any of the X-Men movies.
You haven't?
I know, isn't it crazy? Yeah.
I'm trying to think of which ones you should watch. I think you should start at First Class and then Days of Future Past and then this one. I think that would be fine.
Yeah, I've seen part of X-Men 2, like back in the early 2000s, and I heard the first two are good.
The third one's not.
The third one is garbage, is what I heard. Then X-Men Origins is also garbage, except for the one thing I have seen of that I really, really liked is the opening sequence, or I think is the opening sequence where Wolverine and whatever the other guy's face is, Liev Schreiber, who's that freaking man's gorgeous, are like fighting their way through every war.
You mean Liev? What?
Yeah, who's Liev Schreiber play? I don't remember his face.
What's his power?
I don't know. I don't remember anything. I'm not really good with the X-Men. Hold on. Maybe I should look that up. Liev Schreiber.
I'm looking it up too. This is quality content for all of you listeners. This is how it's done. X-Men Origins, Wolverine.
Yeah, Sabretooth. He was Sabretooth.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't he and it was them that were fighting through every war.
Was Origins Wolverine the one where he's in like Japan? That's the only one I didn't see.
No, that was the Wolverine.
Oh, that was the one where he was in Japan.
Yeah, I heard that was actually pretty good. So, no, X-Men Origins Wolverine was the one with a terrible Deadpool.
Oh, and then he got retconned into a good Deadpool.
And yeah,
which I also haven't seen.
You should see that sometime.
People are telling me I should see it. I'm gonna do my usual thing of have everybody tell me to see it and then not watch it for like 5 years and then finally just one day be like, you know what I should do?
Because then everybody stopped talking about it. Honestly, like I think sometimes that's actually a really great way to experience things, because sometimes like a lot of your own personal experience can be lost in the hype.
Yeah.
So I think that like for some things I do get swept up in the hype, like you get your new Zelda game coming out, or you get your new whatever, the Marvel movies. I'm really big into
Zelda Broken Promises.
Yeah, The Legend of Zelda Broken Promises, and then or your new Marvel movies. I get really swept up in those because I'm really big on the Marvel movies at least.
Yeah.
So like I get kind of swept up in those, but like for other things like, I mean, a lot of the games I have that I haven't played, the hype machine is just come and gone. But like Dishonored, I have like a thing saying Dishonored right next to me. I haven't played that yet, but I know I'm gonna love it.
Yeah.
And I know,
I did play it. 2's coming out soon. I'm excited for that, and I'm gonna let it sit and cool off a little. That's the thing is like I need stuff to cool off before I can like enjoy it for myself.
Yeah, and I understand that for sure. Yeah, sometimes it's like, sometimes it's just like it's nice to just enjoy things after, because like I'm going through Game of Thrones now. Like
the show.
Yeah, like I've just started the first season like I actually started back in January, but I'm watching it with somebody, so we only do it every once in a while. We'll get on a train and we'll like not an actual train, but like be like, let's watch this show, and we'll watch that for a while. Like we've been watching Archer, which is hysterical. Or like we'll be like, let's watch Game of Thrones, and we'll watch that for a while, and then we'll like take a break with that. Well, we've sort of been getting back into Game of Thrones again, and that has been like so much fun.
Yeah, and the first season's definitely cooled off at this point.
Yeah,
I think the show overall is cool. It is starting to cool off, in my opinion.
I think it is a little bit. I think people are starting to. I know some people are like, I dropped the show now or whatever, and people are doing the same thing with Walking Dead. That's kind of cool. But even though The Walking Dead's still like breaking like viewing records and stuff, so I don't know how. I don't know why. I don't know anybody that.
Yeah, to
really
be honest, I forgot it was airing.
Yeah, I know. I know like one person that watches it, and like I don't really talk to him very much. He's one of my coworkers. Mm-hmm. He's like the only person that I hear like talk about it and hype about it. Just because it's been going on for like what 6 seasons or 7 seasons now. It's like
I have no idea. I've lost count.
Game of Thrones is on its 6th season, but Yeah, I think a lot of the shows are. I mean, even though the thing about Game of Thrones though is that it's still really super high quality though. That's the
Yeah.
thing about that. But yeah.
That
So
could be a good segue. So in addition to Game of Thrones, is there anything else that you've been doing since we last spoke on air 3 years ago?
well,
And
let's
or
see.
let's narrow it down to the past. Let's narrow it down to the past like 3 months, I
3 months.
guess.
Okay.
Focus on the 3 months, and then if there's anything else that had happened before that, that you really wanted to nail down and get out there, then do that, and that way we'll be able to kind of roll through this with decent time, you know?
Right. Yeah, because we could just go on tangentially for ages, but yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the part of the show we like to call. I don't remember what I called it in the show notes. I think I called it "What have you been up to?" I think that's kind of what I called it.
Show notes right now. It's called "What Have You Been Up To?"
Yeah, there you go.
Go.
So this is Chris's "What have you been up to, Alec?"
What have you been up to, Alec?
Let's see. What have I been up to? Well, let's see. Past 3 months. Well, I've been playing through Demon Souls.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've been playing through Dark Souls.
Well, there you go. Hey, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So yeah, Demon Souls. It's speaking about getting off hype trains. Boy, that game is like what? The game's 7 years old now.
Yeah, something like that.
2009.
Mhm.
So yeah, I want to start making my way through the Dark Souls series, which technically I don't have to play Demon Souls in order to play those because Demon Souls is an entirely different universe and things from that, but it is a spiritually linked. In fact, actually, it's funny. I when I was visiting some friends a couple months ago, I the HUD is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like it has not changed at all.
Nope.
Camera positioning is exactly the same, that's just hysterical to me. Is like, if you've got a formula that works, why not just stick with
Yeah,
it?
exactly. And those games, the Souls games, are their own genre at this point.
Pretty much, yeah.
Any game now that comes out with HUD similarities to that, like anything that's come out after Demon Souls, is now like it counts as a Souls game. It's like it's a term in a genre that's actually being used to describe stuff like Neo that just came out. It's like Japanese Souls, and you play as like a dude a dude in Japan, and it has the same gameplay style, same camera angles, level up stuff, mechanics like in terms of like in-game currency is souls that you get from killing dudes that are trying to attack you. Combat looks the same, targeting stuff. It's a Souls game, and I think Suda 51 did that. Don't quote me on that, but somebody that we both know, like not know but like know of, worked on that. I forget who it was. And when those comparisons started to come out, he like actually got confused and was like, I didn't want it to be like that. I didn't know that was a thing. It's actually a thing.
Yeah.
No.
I've heard people call it Soulsborne actually, because Bloodborne is like the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just the only thing Bloodborne doesn't have is instead of a shield, you have a gun.
Yeah, so it's way more dynamic.
Yeah. And that's a lot more that's a lot of like Cthulhu type mythology and gothic horror and stuff like that.
Eldritch stuff, yeah, it's awesome. That's the cool part of Bloodborne for me. It's too fast for me to play. Like I can't physically keep up with it yet because I don't have enough practice. But the story of it, like I'll just watch stuff on YouTube about the story of Bloodborne, and I'll look up stuff on the wiki because that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Hidetaka Miyazaki is going to go back to that, because he said he's done with Dark Souls. He's just done.
Yeah, trilogy's over.
Yeah, so he wants to move on. They kind of pressured him into making Dark Souls 3 actually, and he said he didn't want to. He's actually like yeah, I didn't really want to make this game, but I'm going to anyways.
Yeah, but funnily enough, the one that doesn't seem like it fits out of those three is 2.
Yeah, 2, which was the one he didn't have anything to do with. It's just like why? Because it takes place like way in the future or something.
Something like that. It takes place in a completely different continent. And the game starts where like you fall into it looks like you go into the abyss, which is not a place you'd want to go.
Yeah.
So do you die? Like, it's not clear, and I don't know enough because I've only got through. I'll talk about where I am in Dark Souls in a minute, but I've been looking at lore stuff because I've just been like, I'm really fascinated by the storytelling of those games. So
yeah, me too.
I've been just watching lore videos and stuff and trying to catch up on the story, watching playthroughs. But Demon Souls, for you, how's that been going?
It's been, it's so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, at this point, like, that's just kind of goes without saying, but like, I knew it was going to be hard, but like, oh man, it's really challenging. I mean, I didn't make things easy for myself because I like thief classes. Like, whenever I'm playing a game, I always, like, one of my first playthroughs, I want to be a thief class. Or like in Final Fantasy 1, I made my main character a thief, which normally you'd, like, make him a warrior or make him a red mage or something, but no, I want to be a thief. So I always make my protagonist the thief. So, but in this game, from what I understand, thief is probably one of the hardest starting classes to be because they're not very good at magic, which you kind of need throughout a lot of this game. Like where I'm at now. and yeah, they have a very short range because they have to use daggers.
Yeah.
And you don't get bows. You don't really get good bows for a while, at least until you've leveled up a bit. So I'm kind of stuck with a crappy bow. I have a pretty good dagger. But the thing about thieves is that you basically the point of them is you have to practice how to not get hit.
Yeah.
You don't because armor, you don't want to be bogged down by too much armor. In fact, the starting armor you get with the thief is might be the best armor you can get until like the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just so light and it has really good some good like poison resistance and stuff like that. But
yeah,
that game it is so freaking hard. I've beaten 3 bosses, I think. Yeah, I beat.
And it's 5 years old. Statute of limitations is up on spoilers, so if you want to give boss names, if you remember them, you
absolutely.
can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was the Phalanx is the first boss you fight, it was really easy. I didn't die during that one. It took me a little bit to sort of figure out how to hurt it, but once I did, I was just like, oh, this is easy.
Mm-hmm.
The Tower Knight was so much fun figuring out how to fight him. It was basically this giant with a huge shield and like this big, I don't remember I think it was a lance of some sort. And yeah, he was like 20 feet tall or something like that. And it was just so much fun fighting it. That was great. I couldn't proceed. That was in the first world. It was a castle, but I can't proceed any further than that till I beat an archdemon or till I slay an archdemon, which I haven't encountered one yet. So then I went to the next world and I fought the spider at the bottom of the mine there.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've worked my way further down into the mine in the second part of that. And now I'm again fighting trying to, but I can't. I'm stuck right now, more or less. I got to the boss, and I don't have any way to enchant my weapons because it's weak to magic. So I don't have any way to really enchant my weapons because I ran out of that stuff. And because it's a fire boss, I can't use turpentine on my sword because I won't do anything. So I've been having to sort of like use. I had to like equip a thief's ring, which increases my my noticeability like even more. Or it decreases it even more. I mean, I should say. So like I can kind of sneak around a little bit during the boss fight, but not really that well. Like that was one of the strategies I found is that you have to sort of like try to sneak around him and then you can get him in the back. But because I haven't enchanted I can't enchant my weapons. I do chip damage to him the whole time. So I got like really close to beating him this past time fighting him, but I died and I got really, really frustrated because he gets really, really aggressive as the fight goes on and his attacks increase because like why would they ever make it easy for you?
Yeah.
And he the thing I was sort of exploiting, he gets caught on these pillars that are in the room that he's in. Yeah. I sort of found that out, so I was sort of exploiting that and like using that to get around him. But towards the end, it starts to get harder for him to get caught on the stuff, and he just gets so aggressive. He's attacking all the time. So I sort of went back and I went to the next level again, which I'd been to before here and there, just sort of scoping it out. Because that's the great thing about this game is you can really go to any of the worlds at any point you want. You're just gonna get boned repeatedly if you do it, but you can go there and like farm for souls and for drops and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. But so now I'm kind of working my way through this other area, and I think I'm gonna try to fight the boss there next. Mm-hmm. Through I don't remember. It's like some prison. They call it the Prison of Hope. Isn't that great? And it's
abandon all hope.
Yeah,
who enter here.
Pretty much. And I sort of made my way through that with not a whole lot of problems, and that's been fine. But so yeah, I'm just sort of like working my way through, figuring out what works, and hopefully I can either learn some magic or find something that can enchant my weapon, because I really want to beat that boss in the second world. So. Mm-hmm. But I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's a really fascinating game, and
that's the thing. So you just listed off how it's difficult because of this, and I'm having a hard time with that, and then you wrap it up with, but it's a lot of fun, and like
I love it.
When I talk about Dark Souls in a couple minutes, I'm gonna say pretty much the same thing. Like I'm having difficulty here, and I had a problem with this, and this is hard, but at the same time, it's all super fun, and like it feels good to progression feels good because you earn it.
Yeah.
And the point of those games is you have to actually earn your progress through skill and understanding of the game. And so when you do manage to complete something, you're like, I now have learned about this game. And that feels really good, and it makes you want to play more, and that's why it's fun.
Yeah, they do a really good job of rewarding you for the effort you put into it, for sure. Yeah, because you just feel so good when you beat that boss, or or like, oh, you figured out like a new way to beat that enemy, or you do something that just like it feels good to do things in that game. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of hard to describe, but like if you've experienced it, you know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been a lot of fun. I've been meaning to get into those games for forever. So
and they're kind of. 3 came out. Demons is cool. You can jump into Demons.
So yeah, that's pretty great. So I've been playing that. I play some things here and there. I played some Katamari Damacy, actually, again for the first time in a while. Just because.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, I'd at work I had been I was kind of stuck on a computer working on some web design stuff, and I was just like, oh man, I just really need to listen to something to pep me up a little bit. And so I put the Katamari Damacy soundtrack on, and I was like, yes!
Yay!
It was so much fun, and I was like, I need to go back and play that game for a little bit again, so I did. So I played a little bit of that. I played some, the PlayStation Network always has flash sales, so I picked up Geometry Wars 3, because I do like twin-stick shooters a lot, so I've been playing that here and there, and that's a lot of fun. Just some good old-fashioned arcadey shoot 'em up all around the place, all around the shapes and things. It's fun. I like those type of games.
So it's a shoot 'em up, not like a bullet hell thing?
Yeah, not really. Yeah, so like think just trying to think of a comparison. Yeah, it's like like a play on asteroids type thing. Where you're or any of those other type of games. So you have a planetoid that you go around, or a flat. It can even be a flat area, and you just shoot shapes that are attacking you, and more or less, kind of like trying to think of anything to compare it to. I don't know if you've heard Super Stardust. The
name sounds really familiar. I've definitely heard about it before.
Yeah, those games. It's kind of the same type of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I really like those type of games are fun, a lot of fun. Arcadey shooters like that are very enjoyable to me. They're like really like, again, it is kind of like an effort thing. You know, it's like a good skill based stuff, but those are a lot of fun just to sit back and relax and not have to deal with anything like leveling or anything. You just like I'm just gonna shoot ships, a little ship.
There you go.
So yeah, doing that here and there. For in terms of handheld stuff, I haven't really been playing a whole lot. I was doing that challenge that a mutual friend of, those of you who listening who will have no idea what we're talking about, just to sort of wrap it up a little bit, a mutual friend of ours had this idea of like playing through a Pokemon game in like with a rule set of his own, so kind of like a Nuzlocke except not.
Yeah, it's not a Nuzlocke, but he's definitely came up with his own set of rules. That I don't remember all of them off of the top of my head in detail, but I remember the gist of it.
Yeah, basically like it's all based on like steps or encounters in each area.
Mm-hmm.
So you can so it's like it's I guess it's too complicated to now.
You track the number of wild Pokemon that you encounter. Right. So if you walk into the grass and a Pokemon pops up, you mark down 1. That's 1 encounter. And so you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 every time you run into a Pokemon, and you're only allowed to capture on specific numbers.
Right. So it's all totally luck of the draw. I mean, you can kind of, if you know the Pokemon games, you can kind of like know sort of where you can like, oh, I'll get this Pokemon in this area. But I think his reasoning behind why he did it that way is because we all tried to pick games we either didn't remember very well or had never played before. So like we had no idea where the encounters would be or like, what would be in each area. So I was playing Platinum for the first time, Gen 4.
Mm-hmm. And I was playing Pokemon X, because I played it through once, and then immediately after that, Omega Ruby came out, and I was just like, screw that, threw X to the side, and went back to my childhood. My first ever Pokemon game I got redone, so I played crap out of Omega Ruby forever, and I forgot all about X, so I took a chance to go back and play through that again and kind of see that game.
Mm. Yeah, it's... great game. I played through Omega Ruby also. It took me a while to get through that for whatever reason. I don't know why. I kind of like, it's funny because like even though I make fun of IGN for the 7.5 out of 10 too much water, I think that was kind of the point where I sort of, don't say I lost interest in it, but like I sort of got like faded away from it. It's not that I didn't like it, because I did. I loved the game, but it just for whatever reason I just kind of like it threw it there. But like what I will say is that I loved the all the legendary stuff, like the Primal Groudon and all that stuff was really cool.
Yeah, those upgrades, I enjoyed those a lot too. And I really enjoyed the remastered music. The remastered score is phenomenal.
Yeah, the music was just so good.
Coming from somebody who spent money to get the original soundtrack, the 32-bit Game Boy soundtrack with all its plingy horns and whatever. I spent money on that. I love Ruby Sapphire Emerald music. And so to hear it now with full orchestra, with the new sound capabilities in the 3DS, I was just blown away, and I bought that soundtrack too.
Yeah.
Put it on my iPod. I listen to it when I run and stuff. It's just so good.
It is. They did a really good job with it. I did the same. I'm the same with the X and Y soundtrack. Mm-hmm. These 3DS games, they did just such a good job with them. I really think. Like with the 3DS, you know, I'm kind of not the biggest fan of Game Boy Advance, like the sounds they made. I think I've talked to you about this before, but
yeah, the sound, it's definitely like, it's not everybody's cup of tea. The sound capabilities of a Game Boy Advance or a Game Boy SD?
SP, the Game Boy Advance SP.
Yeah, the flippy screen one.
Yeah, I think the sound font that they used for development kits for that, I I'm not sure like what it was, but there's just something about it that just doesn't sound right to me. I'm not really sure what it is, but for the most part, when it was an original game, I think they did a great job with it. Like Golden Sun has amazing soundtrack, and like really kind of amazing. Like, I think it really pushed the capabilities of the whole system, like in terms of sound and graphics. But and Pokemon, I think, did okay too. I did enjoy Leaf Green and stuff. It's not as iconic to me as the original soundtrack was to those games, to Red and Blue. But I think they did fine. But like when you compare what they did with the Final Fantasy games for the soundtrack they had back in the Super Nintendo and compared to what they have in the Game Boy Advance, it is like it's hard. Like I can't listen to the Game Boy Advance versions of the soundtrack. It's like it. There's just something about it that just really is really off.
Yeah, and that's 100% personal taste because
absolutely.
It also depends on the game. Like there might be a game you haven't played on the Game Boy that you listen to and you're like, well, okay. Or like they release a port, they put like a port of something to the Game Boy and you listen to it and you're like, that's kind of cool. So
yeah, it is kind of all game to game because like people do that with the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo too. Because there's a weird twanginess to the Genesis a lot of the time. There's a lot of the music on it. And some of it is really bad, but honestly, I think it really does depend on the game. Because like some of the Genesis soundtracks I love, like there's something like really, it just feels so 80s for whatever reason a lot of the time, and I really like that. But
so the Pokemon Challenge thing.
Yeah, so I was playing through Platinum, and I think I made a good decision in skipping that generation originally. Yeah, I'm just not really feeling it for whatever reason. The game itself is fine. I think that like there's been a lot made of how bad that generation was in terms of design. Coming back to it, I actually don't think it's as bad as people made it out to be, and as bad as I made it personally.
Design in terms of what? Design in terms of the gameplay or the Pokemon?
No, the Pokemon themselves.
Okay.
I think that that was the generation where people were like, is Pokemon running out of ideas? Like, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I can kind of see that in some of it. Some of the designs are a little lazy, but like, you go back and you look at some of the older generations, even as early as Gen 1, you're like, I mean, not all of them really had the greatest design,
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it has to do with people remembering their childhood and being like, oh, they were the best. And it's like, well, sometimes they really weren't the most interesting. Like,
you don't meet people that are head over heels fans of Voltorb.
yeah, like there's like comics
the same way you don't meet fans who are head over heels for Trubbish. And like neither of those two designs are any good, and one came 12 years later, and then you think back like Charizard's design is super good, and then you think ahead like even to Gen 4 like Garchomp's design is really good.
Oh my gosh, so awesome. And Lucario.
That's why Charizard, Lucario, and Garchomp are all in Pokken, because they're good, they're well-designed Pokemon. People like them. And the same way there are Pokemon that people just aren't going to remember and don't like because their designs aren't that memorable.
Right. And I know people who don't like Klefki, but I actually really like Klefki.
It's fun. I don't want to say this. I don't want to say this and come off as being like
elitist.
No, or like crude, but like I set my expectations incredibly low for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So I find I can usually end up enjoying things no matter what it is. Like I take in opinions of stuff that I haven't experienced yet, and I knock them down like to half size, and that'll be my expectation going into it. And I usually come out feeling pretty good and enjoying it. So like I can pick up a bad game knowing it's bad and play it and be like, yeah, and like have the time of my life, just because I can temper my emotions before I go into something. So to see people getting all bent out of shape about Klefki being a keychain, I'm like, well, if that, you have to recognize like there's stuff like that that's going to exist, and if you just prepare yourself for that, it's not going to be a disappointment. If you think every Pokemon is going to come out being a level of visual design on the same tier as like a Charizard or a Lucario or like those kind of Pokemon, the ones that are super good and well remembered.
And iconic at this point too. Yeah.
If you expect everything to be up there, yeah, Klefki's gonna disappoint you because they're like, oh, it's just keychain with weird eyeballs and or you could be like, well, there's a range, and you have to set your expectation for the bottom of that range.
Right.
Like my favorite Pokemon is Typhlosion,
That's a cool Pokemon.
He's pretty cool, but he's not like super cool because everybody else likes Feraligatr,
right?
Because big crocodile, it looks awesome,
yeah.
But nobody's gonna remember giant weasel guy with a fire mane because it's kind of dumb, but it's cool dumb.
Yeah.
And then like Gallade is another one of my favorite Pokemon, and it's sword guy with giant puffy thing on his waist, and he's got sword arms, and like his sword arms look really stupid, and he's got a dumb shark fin on his head. But I like him because he's got sword arms, and I think sword arms are cool. So like,
everybody's got different. I think everybody's got different tastes, and I think people often are like way too quick to just like jump aboard a hate train, kind of like.
It's easier to hate than it is to enjoy something. If you see something you don't like, you could either immediately just be like, I don't like it, or you could take time and understand why it is, and then maybe come to tolerate it in the future. But it's easier to say don't like it, and then you can just shove it aside and focus on other stuff.
Yeah. Or like, one of my favorite Pokemon is Gengar. And if you look at Gengar, Haunter has the more interesting design, really, when you look down to it. Because Gengar is just like, it's just like Haunter's face on like a little body.
Yeah.
But
purple Clefable with Haunter face on.
Yeah, pretty much. But I just love Gengar for whatever reason. And though I will say probably my favorite, like, Mega Gengar. I love him. He's great. I don't know. Like it's all down to like just different personal things and whatever. Or like, I'm sure there's people out there whose favorite Pokemon is like Meganium.
Yeah.
And nobody remembers Meganium because that was like the worst starter of that generation. Because the game made it impossible for it to be useful at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just
Pokemon.
There's over 600. Like there's like 650.
720 something now.
Yeah, 20 designs. So it's like
we could have an entire podcast and talk for 2.5 hours about Pokemon.
Yeah, we really could, and I'm sure we probably will.
At some point.
But it's like the thing is like there's so many of them. There's bound to be at least a seventh of those are probably not that good.
Oh yeah.
At least.
Yeah. It's just the odds. It's just the rule of the odds having such a huge number.
Yeah. So
you've been doing the Pokemon challenge.
Doing the Pokemon challenge.
What else have you been doing? Watching stuff. Any more playing stuff?
I haven't been playing too much more than that. A lot of times I just like, I don't know, like I'll be like, I'm gonna play this, and then like, friends like, I want to Skype, and I'm like, okay, that's better than playing video games, so.
Yeah.
So Skyping friends, Skyping Dubs, and our friend Dubs, we'll talk about him, I'm sure. We'll talk about the notorious and infamous Dubs.
The man, the myth, and also a legend.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure if we ever have guests, we'll probably have them on. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
That would be good times. Feel like getting the gang back together.
Yeah.
And then my other friend Hadley, I'm sure you'll hear about her a lot. I'll probably talk about her here and there on the podcast. I'm sure Chris has people he'll converse about. But Skyping them here and there. That's been fun. I went and saw Captain America Civil War twice.
Oh, I wanted to go see it a second time, but nobody else wanted to go with me.
And I loved it. I thought it was great. I don't think it's as perfect a movie as Captain America Winter Soldier is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, for me, Civil War is way up there in terms of Marvel movies that I've seen. Though there are very few of those that I really just don't like. The only one that I can think of off the top that I'm like, that one's not as good as the other ones, I don't think, is Iron Man 2.
Oh, really? I thought you were going to say Thor.
No, see, the thing about Thor is that, like, and this is actually the thing, we might as well just segue into, like, a weird, like, just a short little Marvel thing. The thing I love about the Marvel films is that each character's films is, like, a whole different thing. And that, I love that. Even though they're comic book movies, they're all different genre that they're covering. Yeah. So, like, Thor is, like, weird sci-fi, crazy, like, it's just so bizarre. It's like, you watch those movies and, like, this is just so weird, but they're good because they're, like, the first one was helmed by, like, Kenneth Branagh, who's, like, a Shakespearean trained actor and director.
Yeah.
And he gets these amazing performances out of like, what's his face there? Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
And he's just amazing as Odin. And you just get these, like, really great performances from everybody. Stellan Skarsgård's really great in those movies. Natalie Portman's not really that great, but she's not going to be in the new one, so whatever. And she's eye candy. She's eye candy, so there.
Yeah.
And Chris Hemsworth does a great job, and what's his face there? Loki, whoever plays him. Whatever his face.
Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah, Tom Hiddleston, and they're all great. Like, those movies are just, like, really great characters and really good acting for this weird, bizarre sci-fi setups that, like, don't make any sense. And they're just dumb fun. That's what I like about the Thor movies. Then, meanwhile, you've got, like, Captain America, or a lot more, like, war, political intrigue type movies. Like, you especially, like, crazy get that in Civil War. There's a lot of politics that goes on in that movie.
Civil War, Winter Soldier was super political espionage.
Yeah, that wasn't even, like, a superhero movie. That was like a political thriller with Captain America in it.
Yeah, and
like, it was
Natasha Romanoff.
Yeah, it was that movie was just amazing. Then you've got Iron Man's kind of like your typical action flick with some, like, science-y stuff in it, but, like, those are a lot more basic action movies, I think. Though the third one was, like, really different. That was almost like a buddy cop film, kind of in how it played out.
With War Machine.
Yeah, it was that one was really different, but in a good. A lot of people made a lot of bones about how they hated that movie because they ruined the Mandarin. They just ruined it. They didn't portray Mandarin right, but I didn't really care because, like, the movie itself was fine. So
yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got, like, you know, your ensemble action films with the Avengers, and then you've got, like, you have your heist film with Ant-Man.
Yeah, Ant-Man.
Ant-Man was awesome.
Let's go.
I loved that movie. It was so, because, like, it didn't take the concept of Ant-Man seriously at all.
Yeah, he was like, he's a guy that gets small.
Yeah, so, like, it was great. They were hilarious movies. The writing is just so funny in that movie. And apparently Ant-Man and the Wasp isn't going to be a heist movie again, but it's not going to be, from what I've heard of early reports, is that they're trying to make it as unconventional as possible. Like, they're like, we're going to get weird. And I was like, yes.
Awesome.
That's when I hear...
They've got another dimension to explore after Civil War.
Yeah. So, for sure. So yeah, and then Guardians. Oh yeah, and then Guardians of the Galaxy is a cast comedy film. And it's like an ensemble comedy. Because, like, really, that's all that was. It was a weird sci-fi setting comedy.
Yeah.
Is what it was. Because that was another movie that was just hilarious. So, like, that's something I just love about those movies, is that you can go and see something totally different based on, like, what character it's portraying. And, like, Doctor Strange is looking like to almost be more like a drama than anything. Like, it's like really serious in tone, which is really different from Marvel, the Marvel films for the most part. So that's going to be interesting, I think. But so I'm looking forward to that with Bumblebee Crumble Bumble
or Butterbatch Cookie Crumbles.
Oh man,
Benedict Cumberbatch. In case you get super confused.
In case you're like, yeah, he's amazing, that man. So yeah, I saw Civil War. What else did I see? I went and saw something else. Oh, I went and saw The Jungle Book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and wow, what a movie. Like, there were many times throughout that movie I forgot that the animals weren't actually there. And
Oh?
yeah, that's how really good they looked.
Wow.
Just a really, really impressive feat for CG. Really, like, the voice cast is amazing. The little boy that played Mowgli was really, really believable. As someone who has a nephew, I was just imagining my nephew when he was a little younger. I was just imagining him saying stuff like that, and I was like, oh, he would totally be saying stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the really believable little boy. Yeah, the voice cast was awesome. You had like Ben Kingsley and Idris Elba. ScarJo was in it for a grand total of like 5 minutes. Because if you know anything about what happens to Ka, Ka goes away really quickly in that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's spoilers for this thing that was written in 1898 too, or whatever.
Yeah, and a Disney movie was made in it. Okay, there's another thing. The songs, they kept some of the songs in it from the 60s Disney movie.
Yeah.
Fantastic sequences.
Really?
So much fun. Yeah. You've got freaking Bill Murray as Baloo.
Oh,
And singing Bare Necessities. It's so fun. And then you've got what's his name there? Man, I'm really terrible with like actors' names today. Damn, a cowbell guy? What? Come on, what's? Yeah,
Christopher Walken.
Yeah, you got Christopher Walken as King Louie. Ooh, wanna be like you. And he's just like, it's so much fun. It was like, I know some reviewers were like, they're really out of place. And I was like, well, maybe they are. I don't know, because
they seem out of place because it looks lifelike. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, maybe that's the case, but I was having so much fun while they were going on that I didn't care. Like, I loved those sequences so much. And the score of the film it really takes you back to that old Disney movie, because it's really jazzy, because like those movies that movie specifically was really influenced by the big band kind of era. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the score of the new film definitely takes influence from that too, and I love jazz, so yeah, that movie was a lot of fun. Me and my dad loved going and seeing that. And some anime. I really haven't been watching a whole ton. I've been watching RWBY finally, getting back around to that, because I watched it a long time.
RWBY.
I watched when it was like first coming out. I watched up to like episode 8 or something of the first season, and then I think I got busy with school, and I just had to I couldn't justify watching it anymore.
That was it was your junior year.
Yeah, I think I got really busy with school and stuff, and something had to go, so it turned out to be that. So, but now I'm getting back into it again, and I've made it further than I ever have before. I'm still in season 1.
Season 1, episode 9.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember what episode I'm on, because I was watching it. I was watching it at the gym on Rooster Teeth, and then I came home and I watched some of it on Netflix a few days later. So I sort of skipped ahead, but Netflix has volume 1 all in one set thing, like 90 or 100.
Oh, like a shotgun.
So you just the whole series like that.
Pop it right on your face. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. And
take this.
Yeah, it's more or less what it does. Yeah.
I mean, it's an hour. It's like just under an hour and a half for the entire first season. So or first volume.
Yeah. So it's it's a nice little thing to digest. But so I'm close to the end of season 1, I think. So I don't really remember what episode it is. It is probably like 9 or 10. I don't remember. But yeah, really enjoying that. I really just love the characters, and the voice acting is really great. Going back and watching it now, I'm a little bit more critical of the animation. The first time, but knowing that it was one guy's spearheaded project that Rooster Teeth gave him funding for, and they had some extra animators on it, I I can kind of forgive some of the little
It's
weird things here and there.
charming, and you watch.
It is charming.
Watching Volume 1 and Volume 2, you look at it and you're like, that didn't look great, but I love it. There are a handful of moments in Volume 2 where I'm watching and I see this thing happen and I go, that looked terrible. And then I immediately go, yeah! And I just love it. It's two of them in one episode, my favorite episode, and then one of them later on. It's like you wouldn't even see it because it's kind of like on the corner of the screen and it's not really like, but I saw it and I was like, look at that. And then I will not shut up about it.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that it looks so janky because it looks like it's somebody's doing this because they want to, and they're doing it in the way that they want. And that results in not everything looking totally perfect, but it gets the point across, and it's enjoyable, and it's very friendly to see stuff like that.
Yeah, you know that there's genuine passion behind it. You know that the people who are making it, are making it because they love it. You know, they love what they're doing, and that's, you can really see that, I think, in basically in everything, everything that the show is, and especially in the voice work. They're having so much fun, and you can just tell. I'm just really enjoying it. Honestly, like, that to me, it just kind of adds to its charm. And there are, I will say that the fight choreography, the fight choreography in it is awesome.
Yeah,
like,
that's all Monty.
That's where they spent, like, probably their entire animation budget was just on that.
Mm-hmm.
Because
that's all Monty
and they look very impressive.
Mm-hmm.
The fights.
That's what he was best at, was doing those sorts of big, dynamic, difficult movements, making them coordinating them, making them work well with other stuff.
Dead Fantasy and Haloid, man.
Mm-hmm.
They're really impressive, even still to this day, to go back and watch those. And they're really cool, the stuff he did.
Mm-hmm.
Given the limitations on tech back then, but
yeah.
Yeah, so I've been watching that, and I've actually been watching since when I first met Hadley. One of the things I was trying to get her into was anime, because I love anime. So the thing we started off with was Fullmetal Alchemist.
Yeah.
So we started it in July of last year.
Yeah.
Because we live 2 hours apart from each other, though, we can't always watch it very often.
Yeah.
And it's like we've tried to make that a thing when we get together, we watch it type of thing, where as opposed to watching it over Skype, which we've done with other stuff like Scrubs and Archer. And so that has been what the anime. We've still been making our way through Fullmetal Alchemist 2003.
Plugging your way.
Plugging our way through. We're in the 30s, so we're getting kind of near the end game. We're ramping up, the story's ramping up. I'm actually have forgotten a lot of the stuff that happens that's going on right now. Like, I remember,
it's so different.
It was so different. It's really different.
It turns after all of those episodes between episode 2 or episode 3 and I think Full Metal versus Flame. Mm-hmm. All of those are completely different, except for the one about Shao Tucker, and then Full Metal versus Flame up until the Hughes episode. From there on, it's completely different.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I actually read a really interesting article. It was an opinion piece about, like, which Full Metal do I like more, and they were sort of comparing the pros and cons to both series. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I was noticing more in this, watching through the first series again for the first time in probably it was probably 6-7 years ago when I watched it. Is it is very, very, it's really political. It's very, it really fits the period of time when it was made.
Yeah.
A lot. You could tell that there was a lot of anti-war sentiments about the Iraq War going on at that time. And you can really sense that in just the way the story was, the treatment of Ishbal, it's known.
Ishbal, yeah.
That. And it's interesting. It's kind of fascinating looking at that. It's a lot more. I would say it's a little dark. I would actually say that it is darker than the manga sort of adaptation. It's more. It's kind of more focused on emotions and like bearing responsibilities, and it's almost at some points a little too grimdark for my liking.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's also why people like it. When people who like the 2003 series more than the other one, I think a lot of the reason they like it is because it's very, I'm not sure. It is. It almost feels like it's a me against the world type thing with Ed and Al because they really have nobody on their side throughout almost any of it, as opposed to, I mean, the thing I really like about the 2009 series is that they do everything interconnects a lot more in that one.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot more that I personally respond to and jive with in that series, but I can understand why people would appreciate what the 2003 series is saying and what it's going through, because they really are kind of saying two different things, I think. With the narrative of two brothers, and the sort of general framework being the same. But
for those who don't, I'm a Fullmetal Alchemist nut. I love this series. Everything about it.
Oh, me too.
I'm out of control. And I think the distance you have with watching this series, and that, like, after a long time not remembering most of it, and being more involved with Brotherhood, the 2009 one. I started Fullmetal Alchemist with the 2003 series back when I was going through formative, like, young adult moments, trying to figure out what I want to do, my place in terms of relationships with other people. And it's funny that you bring up that the me versus the world thing. And I feel like I have this huge soft spot in my heart for the 2003 series, and I can't completely bring myself to ever say that I like Brotherhood is quote unquote better, because the 2003 one means so much to me, and I got so much out of it. And I think that has to do with my personal viewing experience. Being in a time period where I needed help figuring stuff out, to have a story where it's a similar sort of thing, like where I felt like I needed more people on my side to help me figure out problems that I was having. Seeing that reflected in this show that I've watched helped me kind of grow alongside the Ed and Al through this, and find characters on the side that also have their own struggles going on and connect with them too.
Yeah.
And for that reason, the 2003 show is really important to me.
Yeah.
Brotherhood, in terms of visual quality, writing, like coherence with the original intent of the author, like obviously it does have superiority,
Yeah.
but I can't rightly put one on top of the other in my own mind, and I think it's because of some of those reasons that you brought up in relation to my personal viewing experience.
Right, and I think that's totally fine and totally understandable. I mean, I think it'll often be always going to be something where people will argue over which series is better, because there's two series. It's one of those weird things where it's an anime that has two adaptations that are totally different. Super
popular when it was being written, and they were like, make an anime of it.
Yeah.
And so they made one, and then they were like, we caught up, and they were like, crap, just finish it. And so they finished it, and they were like, well, I guess this is going to be the story, and then it got a movie. And then once the manga got into its final its final volume or 2 volumes, they were like, all right, we have more now. It's still insanely popular. People flying off the shelves. Let's make another show. Let's make it again and tell this story. And then they did that, and then they had that kind of like spin-off movie alongside it.
That spin-off movie is really, really good, by the way. It kind of makes me wish that they did more of those
Yeah.
because they're like, first of all, that thing had a totally different art style than the other ones, which
Yeah.
was like really different and really interesting to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And but it was just like a really solid story, and it was like really enjoyable. Maybe someday, they'll make another animated movie,
Mm-hmm.
but it is not this day.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Instead of more animated movies, we got like 5 or 6 games for the PS2.
Oh yeah, right. Well, I think most of those were based on the 2003 series, though.
Yeah.
The PS2 games, and then there was a DS one that was like, I think like it was basically was the series that you played different parts of on the DS. Because I think you get to draw different symbols for like the alchemic circles on the DS screen.
Fun.
Yeah, I've wanted that game for a long time actually, but no cigar. But yeah, so we've been making our way through that, and planning on showing her Brotherhood eventually. But considering how long it's taken to get through this, I mean, who knows whenever that'll be. But
Yeah.
I think one of the next anime that I want to show her is Code Geass.
Mm-hmm.
Because that one is really up there for me in terms of because that show like literally
I think that kind of jumps in and out of my top 5 depending on how I'm feeling.
For me, I think one of the reasons that I like it so much is because it kind of has a little of everything that I like in anime in it, and it also just like the storytelling is really, really solid the whole way through, I think, and yeah, I love that show. But anyway,
that's a good show.
That's pretty much it for me. I went on for quite a while there, and we went on multiple tangents. But
yeah.
So, Chris, what have you been up to?
It's funny because as you were talking, all kinds of stuff just like connected. So I don't know where to start because there were like every time you brought up something, I had a segue into like.
You're like, I'm doing that too.
Yeah. So I guess we'll roll it back. So you play Demon Souls. I'm playing Dark Souls. I'm playing a warrior. So that's my kind of like the character archetype that I like the most is like sword and board guy. I like sword and board guy or a giant guy with a huge sword. Like those are the kind of things that I like. And there's a guy in RWBY. Never mind. I don't want to talk about RWBY yet. I'll get to that in a little bit. But so I'm playing my warrior. I've got the grass something or other shield that helps my stamina, and a claymore that I've upgraded to +5. And I was really struggling for a little while. And then this Discord group that I'm part of, they have a bunch of Souls players. And I was just like talking to them about like, man, I'm having a real tough time. Like, well, you upgrading weapons? Are you doing this, that, and the other? And I'm like, I'm not doing any of that. They were like, well, there's your problem.
Yeah.
So they were like, step 1, weapon upgrades matter more than levels. And I was like, okay. So I upgraded my longsword first, and I started doing, instead of doing like 64, I was doing like 170. And I was like, oh, that makes it so much easier.
It's like, wow, I'm doing double damage now.
Yeah. And then I saw that I had a claymore in my inventory that hit, at base it hit the same as my upgraded longsword, so I switched to that, and like, oh, I love using that claymore, man. It's so good. This big old sword you just whack people with until they die. And I have it up to +5, and it has like 220, or I don't remember the stats right now, but it's got like really high basic damage, and then my strength stat, and so I can one-shot most of the little like cruddy grunt guys that run around. So that was the first thing, was upgrade your gear. It's better than levels. The second thing was learn how to parry. Learn how to parry. And so what I did was I just hung out in the, I kind of did like a weird order of all of the stuff I was supposed to do, because I was just like running to try and find things. So I beat this one boss, and I like sequenced, I beat this one boss and then went back and beat a boss that I was supposed to beat beforehand. And like in between there was when I was kind of like, that was really hard. I need to like figure something out. And I just ran around the Undead Parish, between the bonfire in front of Andre and the bonfire down at the front after the like dragon bridge. And I just like went back and forth just doing laps, just grinding for souls. And all I did was parry. There were like, I don't know, there's like 25 enemies. I walk up to them and I would figure out their parry timing and then just like, and the first time I did it and it made that noise and they kind of like pulled back, I was like, I felt something in my heart. I was just like, oh, that felt so good. And I stabbed him and I was like, yeah. The health bar down. Saw a big fat 387 show up over the health bar, and I was like, ah! And then I did that for about 6 hours of game time, just running back and forth, grinding for souls, upgrading my stuff, and parrying everybody. So it was awesome. I beat the Asylum Demon, obviously. I beat the Taurus Demon, and then I went and I did the Moonlight Butterfly, which is completely out of order. And then I went back and did the Bell Gargoyle. Between the Moonlight Butterfly, I did all the grinding, and then I beat the Bell Gargoyles. And then I beat the Capra Demon, and then the Gaping Dragon, I think it is. So I just beaten the Gaping Dragon, and I'm going down into Blight Town, which I've heard, which it actually isn't too bad now that I learned how to parry. The first big dude came over with a club and he tried to hit me and I just whoosh, parry, I was like, no, parry, riposte, and I was like, oh, it was so good. And I heard so many people being like, yeah, just wait till you get to Blighttown. And I'm like, okay. And I go in there and it's not too bad. I'm like, I don't know what you guys are complaining about. Like, yeah, I died to some poison, but I didn't like get killed or I didn't have any problems with the ghouls. And I was like, oh, how did you do that? I'm like, well, I learned how to parry. And they were like, oh. Well,
yeah, I learned how to do that beforehand.
And like you mentioned, it's really hard, and but beating bosses is rewarding. Yeah. I didn't feel very rewarded with the thing is like I really just I go for the one boss until I win, and then I go and do the next thing. Mm-hmm. If you do that enough, it does tend to get on your nerves, and it doesn't feel as good. Like it took me like 8 tries on the Moonlight Butterfly, and I would like almost finish and then die, and then I have to like run back and then almost finish and then die, and it was just really frustrating. And there's this like mini boss kind of in an area. His name's Havel. He stands at the bottom of a staircase, and I fought that guy probably 20 times.
Yeah, that's something.
And I was so fed up with him. By the time I killed him, I felt nothing. He died, I got his drop, and I just left. And I just moved on with my life because Havel was dead.
Just like done with this.
Yeah. But I love the areas. Like, I love going through the areas and fighting guys. That's like my favorite part. All the random enemies that will show up, like all the undead that will just walk over and be like, meh, and try and stab you. I love killing them. I love killing like the tougher undeads that are like, you know, bigger and they have like a bigger shield or whatever, and they have different attack patterns. Bosses are kind of hit or miss because I really like having enemies that are the same size as like enemies that are the same size as the player character that require you to have intense skill with the game mechanics, mm-hmm. as opposed to a DPS race.
Yeah.
That's just me personally, and that's something maybe we could talk about later, different types of boss battles, but some of the bosses are more DPS on the DPS side, and I don't really have as much fun with those, but I still finishing boss fights, I'm like, yeah, I did it. And I just got a Wi-Fi adapter so I can invade and do soapstone stuff and summon people and read messages, leave messages. So I'm having fun with that. And then other gaming stuff, I borrowed Witcher 3 from a friend, and I don't know if I'm gonna keep playing. I'm so bored with it. Really like I don't really.
I can remember we talked about one time before, me and Dubs had a theory that I think you probably only in your life you only have room enough in your heart for one Western RPG.
Yeah.
And that is Elder Scrolls.
Mm-hmm. I just can't. It's Witcher's too much. I plugged it in and I was doing the tutorials and I got to the systems tutorials and I was just like, oh man.
There's a lot to that game.
I'm not going to remember all of this. I don't know how to do it even after you've explained it. And I don't know how I'm going to get through the game without it. And I got through the tutorial area. And I was like, there's a zone that you go into. It's like a full open zone with like a bunch of towns, and you go around, do quests, and it teaches you how to navigate and pick up quests and fight guys and random encounters and whatever. Finished that, got a little story clip, and the story clip was super interesting, and seeing the dialogue and the characters interacting was super interesting. And then we went back to the gameplay, and I was just kind of like, okay.
What do I do?
I got really bored again, and I put it down about a week and a half ago, and I haven't touched it since. I have played Dark Souls more, and I don't know if I want to go back, because I'm weighing like my experience with the gameplay versus how much I care about the story, and it's not adding up to I'm going to continue this game. So I think I'm gonna give my friend back his copy of the game and just move on with something else, play more Dark Souls, or something like that. It's just Witcher didn't gel with me, and I felt I had a feeling like it wouldn't, just through the whole like looking at trailers and stuff when it was coming out, when the hype bomb was like still going off. Everybody was like, best game that's ever been made, the best game of every generation ever, 100 years, the best game. and and I'm like, I'm looking at stuff and I'm watching gameplay of it, and I'm like, I feel like this would just be. I said, like, I feel like it would just be boring. It doesn't look like it controls very well, and these systems are intensely complex, and I don't know if I'd be able to commit to this. But the game has cooled off. I barely hear anybody talk about it anymore.
About Witcher 3?
Yeah, which is kind of funny.
I hear people talking about it all the time still.
I don't. And I think that's kind of funny considering how it's the best game that's ever been in any console for 100 years. Best game. So I don't know. That kind of tickles me a little bit. Find that funny.
We have different circles on the internet, so that's probably why. For sure. I know, because there's an expansion that just came out for it.
I know, yeah, and that's why I told the one guy that had been really pushing me to play it, that like I stopped talking to him for a long time because he was pushing too hard. I told him that I got it, and he was like, "Oh, sick! The new expansion's coming out in a week." And I'm like, "Oh, cool." And I played it, and I was like, "I'm bored," and I dropped it, and then the expansion came out. But I haven't heard anybody talk about it in a long time, so I figured, okay, maybe it's time for me to give this a shot, and I gave it a shot, and it didn't work out. So not much I can do about that. I'm gonna move on, keep playing Dark Souls, keep playing other stuff, playing that Pokemon challenge that we talked about. I'm doing Pokemon X. I've got 7 badges, and I just finished, like, I've quote unquote finished the main story. I beat Team Flare. Pardon me. I beat Team Flare, stopped their evil plan, caught the legendary. So now it's just kind of like I'm marching to the end of the game. I've got a decent team. I've been the luckiest.
Yeah, out of all of us, you have done pretty well for yourself, except for that Delibird.
Except for the Delibird. My only Pokemon that's not so great is I got a Delibird for my last Pokemon. You're only allowed to catch 6 total, and that you can use. It's part of the rules, and the rules are really in depth. But basically, you're allowed to have 6 in your team that you can battle with, and if you have any more, you have to like let them die in battle. if you don't catch them on the right number or something.
Yeah.
But the last one that I'm allowed to use in battle is a Delibird that was underleveled for the rest of my team, even underleveled for the zones I was in. But it knows fly, so now I have a flying Pokemon, and I can fly to places instead of having to backtrack through all the routes. Yeah, and I'm overleveled, which I remember being a problem in X, is just having so much experience happen to everybody. But I ended up having my first encounter that I could catch be a gift Pokemon. I got a Squirtle, and then I got another gift Pokemon, and I think...
You get them through gifts? Really? Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, my whatever, my 50th or whatever encounter it was, or 25th or whatever, was the professor giving out...
He's like, here you go. Here's a...
Manto Stars.
Yeah.
Here's a Squirtle. Take your pick, and I picked Squirtle. So... in terms of luck, I've had like insanely good luck in that game, which is I feel like it's kind of pissed off Tubbs a little bit. I feel like he's actually mad about it. But
he's finished.
Whatever.
He's finished his challenge, so he's done with it.
Done. It's just it's you and me playing catch up, and Nathan Howe. But
he stopped talking to us like
never gonna
back during the school year.
Yeah, he's never going to finish. That's okay. So it's just you and me playing catch-up now.
Yeah, that's okay.
And then the only other thing I've been playing is Street Fighter V. Street Fighter V. I'm trying to learn how to play Rashid. I've got a player level of 140. But that means nothing because I beat all the story campaign, whatever things. So that gives you infinity player levels. And then in terms of online, I'm 3-12, which, for somebody that's pretty casual, like I haven't picked the thing up since well before final exams in the middle of May. I'm like a super casual player, but 3-12 out of 15 matches, and one of those losses was an opponent disconnect before I was going to win anyway, or one of those wins was the opponent disconnected before I was going to win anyway. So that's okay.
Yeah, that's pretty good, honestly. I think when I played Street Fighter Cross Tekken, or Tekken Cross, it was Street Fighter Cross Tekken. I think I played that online a few times. I just got destroyed repeatedly, and that's fine. I'm terrible at fighting games, and
Street Fighter comes out, and on there's launch day. And within 6 hours, there are already killers online, so you don't have to feel bad about losing if you don't.
Yeah, because there's too much, and also everybody's Ryu on launch day too. So
I started with Ryu, and I played 10 matches with Ryu, and then I've done 5 with Rashid. I haven't won with Rashid yet, but I love his movement, and his links. And all his combos just feel good to do, especially with his he's got this dash that he does. It's kind of like a dash kick where he jumps in the air and flies, and if there's wind on his foot, looks like an eagle. That kick, it's really good, especially if you can link it into a couple of his link combos. You can combo into it, and you can mix up heights, and then you'll get good damage off of those. So I've had fun doing those.
I haven't really watched a whole lot of Street Fighter V personally. I know there was a lot of controversy about it and the way it was released, and there were problems on launch day with it or something on the online, and I think the way they're releasing characters and stuff, some people weren't really a big fan of. And
we didn't get I don't think we got a character in May. We were supposed to, but we didn't. We got 2. Alex came out first in April. Guile came out in April. We didn't get one in May, but they announced Ibuki. This month. I
think I heard about that.
And then I think we'll get Yuri in June. I don't know how to pronounce her name. We'll get her in June too.
Yeah. It's just interesting because there were so few characters when the game started, or the game launched.
Yeah. They're going to be putting out more. I think I don't think Yuri's the last one. I think they've got like two or three or four more that are going to come out after Yuri. But I don't know what they are off the top of my head. But Street Fighter V, picking at it every once in a while.
Yeah, I feel like I would probably.
It's hard with no. I don't have a stick. I just have my Dual Shock because it's on PS4.
Yeah.
I haven't bought a stick yet, but it's kind of tough to do things because I play with a stick on my Xbox when I do like Soul Calibur and Skullgirls. So I'm used to that. I've trained myself to be used to that feeling. And it's tougher to do on the Xbox.
Yeah.
I mean with the
gamepad, yeah, for sure.
So that's my gaming world. In terms of anime, I've been watching a lot more anime than I have been playing games. Detective Conan. I have my list open right here, and I'm just gonna like say stuff that I've done recently. So Detective Conan, I went back and I started from episode 1, and then I watched all the canon episodes all the way up to current, so 817. Started that a year ago next Saturday, June 11th, 2015 is when I started.
Oh my gosh. Dude, it's like a year. You should like celebrate somehow.
It took me almost a whole year to get current. I got current in February of 2016. So picked at that for a long time. It's just fun to watch. Like, and you'd think it would get like, yeah, it's a mystery show, Detective Conan. It's about this teenage kid that's like a idiot savant private investigator, because all he did growing up was read Sherlock Holmes books. So he's just like got great deductive reasoning skills, but he's incompetent in every other way. He gets turned into a child by some mysterious drug that like a mafia type organization has been developing that they thought was going to poison him to death, but it just turned him into like an 8-year-old kid. And so now he's living with his childhood friend he's 17 or whatever his age, nor his normal age, and her dad who's a private investigator, and he is, because the dad's a private investigator, there's all kinds of crimes, and he goes to the crime scenes and solves them, and then the dad gets all the credit. So it's just episode after episode of crime happens. They find the clues. He explains how it happened. They pick the victim. And you hear it like that, and you're like, wow, you watched 800 episodes of that?
That was kind of what I was just thinking.
Yeah. And I'll say yes, because by the time you hit the 200s, the ways that these Japanese people have found to kill their friends and their husbands and their babysitters, like the sheer like the criminal genius that is on display in this show is baffling. Like there's one episode where like it looked like somebody jumped out of a hospital window and killed himself, and by the end of the episode you learn that they're like not nurse, but their housemaid who hadn't been getting paid enough or something rigged it so that they would be in a power wheelchair hooked up to a paint can on a string, that when they pushed it out the window it would pull forward on the power wheelchair and drive the chair to the window and dump the body out, and when the body fell out it would start the elevator so the elevator would go up so nobody could come to the floor. And it's just like the most elaborate, these incredibly unbelievably elaborate setups for these murders. And you watch each episode to be like, how the heck did they do that? Or like the number of times that they force open a locked room and there's a dead body in there. It's been like 82 episodes of locked room murders, and each one of them has been different, or some variation of like has been different enough that you still come back to each episode going, how did how did they kill somebody today? Like,
Yeah.
it's as morbid as that sounds. Like, you watch each episode going, how did somebody get murdered today? And that's how I was able to watch 800 episodes. And they've got a plot thread running through it of that the organization that developed the drug turned him into a child. They want to kill him because he's a great detective, and they don't want him figuring out or like exposing their dark evil secrets, and like there's a ton of players involved, and he's got to stay hidden as a child. Nobody can know that he's really the 17-year-old kid, or else everybody, his family, will be in danger. So like there's and all the while, there's every week there's a new murder. There's also every week, how does that other plot thread carry out? And they'll have like six episode bombs of like, now these episodes are about the criminal organization. Like,
oh, okay.
And it's super intense for 6 episodes of like espionage, and like, I predicted that you would predict that he would do that, and because he thought you would, and you're like, oh my god, like, and the manga has been going on since, I want to say, the late 80s, and the show's been going on since the 90s. So kudos and applaud, everybody golf clap for
yeah, really.
this author that has consistently come up with new ways to kill people.
Is it a murder really every time?
Yeah, to the point where the characters in the show, like the police officers that show up when they get the first call when the dead body gets found, Conan will show up and the police detective will go, well, how did I know you were going to be here? And you're like, oh my, like everybody knows. Everybody knows that death follows him wherever he goes. And like they'll go on trips to, like, they'll go to England, they'll go to, like, I think they went to America once. They'll go to like different parts of Japan, and they'll have to call back to the to the original police detective, and they'll be like, are you kidding me? Somebody died near you while you were in England? What the heck's wrong with you? And it's impressive. And yeah, the show's been going on for almost 30 years. All the characters are still the same age. So in terms of timeline, this all has to happen within the span of a year and a half, or maybe 2 years.
That's just not okay.
It's even more impressive. It's literally, it's the rate of people dying to the number of days that pass in this universe. It's got to be like, there has to be multiple people dying in these cases a day in order to match the amount of time that's passed, but it's impossible because some cases take weeks. So you're like, I came up with this stupid theory of like, what if Detective Conan is like a murder mystery TV show in the universe of Detective Conan, and that's how, like, it made me think. I'm thinking too much about it. It's dumb fun if you want to watch people die, and there's cute girls, obviously, which helps. And it's Detective Conan. And then I also kicked off another really long-running show. I'm watching Ranma 1/2 with one of my friends. It's one of her favorite shows when she was younger. Watching that with her. I'm 45 episodes into 161. It's fun. It's comedy, and it's dumb comedy. And it is kind of dated in terms of art style and stuff, but as it's going through each year of, production, leading into I'm into the early 90s in terms of when these episodes are coming out.
Yeah.
Art's getting a little more tolerable. The style's kind of fun, and it's got good characters, so I'm having fun with that. And then just like, there were a couple of shows I watched from winter season. I watched Dagashi Kashi, which was the candy ads that got turned into an anime.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that.
It was
about that. Yeah.
It was a bunch of like disjointed comedy sketches focused on different candy products.
That sounds weird.
It was one of those. It was really weird, and if you think about it too much, you won't like the show. But I watched it because it was about candy, and I got to hear about candy, and it was kind of enough. And then I also watched Bubuki Buranki.
You broke up there a little bit. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. What was I saying before I broke up?
It was just about it was about candy, and you wanted to watch a show about candy, and then it was like, and so I didn't hear.
Oh, yeah, it was a show about candy, and I wanted to watch it. There were gags that made me laugh, and so that kind of that's the Kashi.
It sounds really.
And then I also watched.
So
yeah, it was pretty unique, and the art was kind of interesting. The way that they drew eyes, everybody had crazy eyes, like big old like irises with tiny pupils, and they all looked like they were like coked up and crazy. It was weird, but you get used to it eventually. And every character has like their two shticks that they have, that they just play all the comedy off of the entire time. But shut your brain off and you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
The other show I watched from winter season was Bubuki Baranki, which is a show about it's about giant robots and kids trying to save the world. And I got kind of like watching the early episodes gave me like an Evangelion kind of vibe, because there were giant robots that nobody knew what they were really about, and they were causing a crisis. And I got kind of like an Ava vibe, especially with the sound design. Because if you remember watching Ava, the roars when Ava's would go berserk, it's just like something about it like made your insides get all like crawly and weird.
Yeah, that show has a really good way of making you uneasy when something like really awesome is happening. Like you're still like, this something's not right about this still.
Yeah. Watching Bubuki Baranki with the sound design, I got that same feeling just with the tone of the early episodes and the way that stuff sounded. I'm like, I don't what the heck's going on with these robots? Like that question was in my head for a long time until it kind of wrapped up. There's this one sound that they make, like when the robots like clash. It's like this really like, it's really wet metallic, like this really wet metallic slap and screech. And every time I heard it, I was just like, oh, that's so accurate. Like it was so impactful. And to be honest, the cast of characters wasn't really that memorable. I don't remember any of their names. I remember what their powers were and what they could do, but I don't remember a single character's name. But I remember what happens, what their powers are, and what they can do, but I don't remember any of their names. Which I don't know what that says about the show, and I'm sure maybe I'm just a weirdo and I don't remember their names. But I rated it a 7 on my anime list. Which is what I rate stuff that I enjoyed watching, but I'm probably not going to watch again anytime soon. But I do. It's one of those things where if you have time to kill and you want to watch 12 episodes of a show that you're going to go, yeah, that was good, watch this show, Bubuki Baranki.
It sounds really interesting from what you said, especially if it gives you an Ava vibe. I'm a really huge Evangelion fan, so. Even just like a cursory Ava vibe that has me a little interested already.
The tone of the early episodes. I definitely had this feeling that I had while I was watching Ava of like, nobody has all the information about these creatures. I think the big ones are called the Baranki. I don't remember. But nobody has all the information, and they're not telling you the information, and the characters don't have it. But there are characters that do, and they know, but the kids don't, and you don't. And so you're like, what the heck's going on? And it's that kind of vibe that you have when you watch Ava. You're like, the heck are these things? Are these robots? Why are the angels there? What's happening? And like Masato knows, and Gendo knows, but Shinji doesn't. And you're like, and you also don't. So you and Shinji are like, what the heck's going on? Yeah. You and the main Azuma is the guy's name. Azuma is the main character. You and Azuma are like, what the heck is this? What's going on? And there are other people that know, and they're like, obviously it's happening because, and you're like, but what is it? And that's kind of what the tone is. That's what the Ava vibe is. So,
oh, you know what?
Time,
I watched the first episode of this show.
Yeah.
And that's it.
You did?
Yeah, I really liked it.
Mm-hmm. And it's all the animation's all 3-dimensional.
Yeah, the animation. Yeah, that was the thing that
it's all 3D.
Very fascinating. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they did a really good job with it, especially during action sequences. So if you have some spare time, you can pick at that if you want. I watched it in 2 months. January 30th is when it aired, and I finished it on March 30th when it ended. Other than that, there's nothing really else that I did that's super important in terms of anime that I want to touch on now, because I don't want to spend a whole lot of time for our first catch-up episode back. And then movies, you brought up movies. X-Men Apocalypse, I went and saw that. I do have some thoughts about it.
I heard it was good schlock. It was just a...
Yeah, I don't want to use the word junk food. Oh, before we talk about movies, there is one other thing that I'm going to admit to everybody, and I trust all of you to be okay with this, about my anime watching habits. I did watch the epitome of junk food rom-com anime. Have you heard of School President is also a maid? Kaichawa Maid-sama?
No, that sounds hilarious though. School President is also a maid.
That's what it is. This girl becomes the president of an formerly all-boys school, and she's a real tough nugget because she doesn't like guys because her dad left her family, and to support her mom, she has to get a part-time job, and the job she ends up with is working as a hostess at a maid cafe. So she goes from being a hard-ass school president.
That's awesome.
In the day, she leaves, goes to the maid cafe, and then she's like a maid at the maid cafe for the night, and that's how she gets her money. And then nobody at the school knows until the school pretty boy that all the girls propose to, or like confess their love to, and all the guys are afraid of because he's too cool. He sees her taking the trash out from the maid cafe in her uniform, and he's like, all right, I'm going to have fun with this. Enter the show. The romance is so awful. It has no grounding whatsoever. But the guy, Usui, hilarious. Because he's played completely flat the entire time, and his entire shtick is he shows up, he's just is a dick to the girl, and then leaves. And she's like, oh, I hate that guy. And then and then he's like, and it's so, but I like and it's not good. It's not good at all. But I laughed a lot, and by the end of it, I was like, yeah. It was one of those things where I saw the first 2 episodes, and I just like cleaved my expectations in half, and then I enjoyed it the whole rest of the way through. So I finished it in a week, which is pretty fast for me. It was 12 episodes, it was 26 episodes. I finished it in a week, which is super fast for me.
It's ranked 235 on my anime list.
Really?
Yeah, how?
I thought it was not good at all. I think I gave it a 6. Let me find my list here really quick. I can pull it up in a second, but I think I gave it a 6. I didn't find the romance believable because of the way that Usui interacted with Misa, because he would show up, he'd just be a dick to her and then leave, or he would show up and like be really creepy, stalkerish, and like kind of forceful, and be like, do you like me yet? And she'd be like, no, you're gross and weird. And then he'd be like, dang, and then leave. And then like I don't care enough about this show, and I'm sure you don't either. I'm just gonna say by the end of it, they like end up as being a couple, and to me that doesn't seem very believable, and I didn't really like that much.
Mm.
But once I realized it was going to be that, I was like, well, I can't expect anything good to come from that piece. At least it has jokes. And then I just watched it for the jokes. Yeah, I gave it a 5. The epitome of a junk food rom-com. I had fun, but it's not coherent or believable. That's about accurate. I
Yeah.
finished it in 10 days.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. No, it's pretty high up there. I looked up Babuki Baranki is like in the 2000s or something. Like it's not very high. People don't. I guess people didn't really care for it all that much. But
it also just aired, and Kaichou Maid Sama has been a manga since 2008. 2008. Let me see. The adaptation. The anime was 2010. The manga started in 2005. So
yeah, Babuki Baranki
it's
has only been has 10,000 people who have seen it or whatever. So, but yeah, I don't know.
I gave Kaichou Maid Sama a 5. That is the end of my anime thing. Now we're on to the movies. X-Men Apocalypse. I saw it had a 57 on Metacritic when I went to go see it, and I walked out of there going, yeah, it's about a 55-60, like I'd say.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was written very well, and that was countered with, well, superhero movies aren't usually written very well. And I was like, well, no, like this one, there was something about this one that just didn't work. Like the line delivery and the actual lines themselves didn't really hit with me, and I don't think it made me feel what I was supposed to feel. Like there's a couple of really like emotional scenes for a certain character in there. And just the way that they were framed by the rest of the film, or like everything that come before it, and the dialogue that happened in it, it didn't really hit
Yeah.
me,
Yeah,
and I didn't feel very emotional.
that's kind of what I heard, is that because X-Men has always been, from what I understand, as somebody who's seen very little of X-Men, but from what I've understood or gleaned from how X-Men is, it's a very very character driven. It's not really so much these end of the world type things.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, it's a lot more character driven and these ideals clashing. That's like always kind of been what X-Men does best.
Mm-hmm.
And why it's so interesting is based on all the characters and the different mutants interacting with humans and all that kind of stuff. From what I've understood.
Yeah.
But
And
this movie doesn't do that. It's kind of an end of the world thing, because you're adapting Apocalypse, who's like he's gonna destroy the world.
Yeah.
For some reason.
And in the from what I understand about the comics, like the point of Apocalypse is that the X-Men can't let him get his plan going because he's too powerful to be stopped. Like he's basically a god, and if he gets his plan going, the world is going to end. So in the comics, they have to stop him before he can start. And in the movie, they don't do that. They stop him after the plan is already in motion and being carried out. There are multiple shots of like a big helicopter shot of Sydney, like with the opera house, just getting vaporized. And and like I'm talking like billions dead. Sydney, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, just in the Golden Gate Bridge, vaporized. Sydney Opera House, vaporized. Half of Manhattan is just vaporized. There are cars flying up in the air, turning into dust, and people falling out of them. And you're like, billions are dead. And then the X-Men solve the problem.
Yeah, see, and that's another thing. That's kind of one thing I heard, is it wasn't, you didn't really get too much of there was like a lot of destruction, but like didn't really feel like, even though you saw people dying, you didn't necessarily really feel anything for them.
No, and you didn't. And then, so you think about how much death there was, and you think about the face. If you know anything about wrestling, this will make sense. The face turned heel, turned face, and when you're watching this movie, you'll know who it is. Those of you who've seen it will know who it is, and maybe even you could guess who it is if you've seen any of the older movies. So face turns heel, which is good guy turns bad. And
I mean, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Yeah,
he's responsible for all of this. He vaporizes these cities, and then he turns back to he turns to a face again, and they're like, "You're forgiven," and like they never talk about it.
Yeah, I heard
he kills
that
billions of people, and then they're just like, we're chums, and he just walks out of the movie.
Yeah, that's what I heard. And I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, and yeah, my biggest gripe is with the writing and the delivery.
Yeah.
Some of the new people playing these old heroes, like the new Cyclops. Good job. Like,
yeah, I heard
Cyclops.
He was awesome.
That he's a good choice for Cyclops. Sansa Stark is Jean.
Jean Grey.
Phoenix. Yeah, Jean Grey. And then Nightcrawler was in this, which was awesome because I love Nightcrawler so much.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had Jubilee didn't really get as much screen time as they said in the trailers, which was kind of a bummer. And then Storm, the new Storm is really good.
Yeah,
she did really well.
Yeah. I mean, I think kind of one of the problems with these movies is that they have, because a big name person is playing a character that isn't interesting, they focus all their time on this character that is interesting, and that character being Mystique.
Yeah.
And nobody really cares about Mystique, so it's like
she was never like that important in the comics either.
Yeah.
Because they got J-Law to play her.
Yeah.
Now they have to make every story a Mystique story. And you can even tell, like, watching that, you're like, this doesn't feel like... Every time they talk about Mystique being a hero so much that, like, it made me uncomfortable. And having seen Days of Future Past, where the events happened that set up Mystique as a hero for this movie,
mm-hmm.
I think back to them and I'm like... doesn't, like, the amount of praise she's getting doesn't line up really with what she did in this movie, in Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
So,
which I heard those, both First Class and Days of Future Past were awesome. So.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to see those, hopefully this weekend, maybe, I don't know. I really want to see them at some point really, really quickly, because I do actually want to go see Apocalypse, because I've heard like you said, it's kind of like junk food. And for like a solidly good movie, for as many of those, like Captain America Civil War, I would say is just a good movie, just in and of itself. I do kind of want to go see a comic book movie that's just kind of like schlock and just like, it's kind of not necessarily great, but it's fun to watch kind of thing. So
yeah, there's some gross body horror stuff in this in Apocalypse.
Really?
Like,
okay, that could be interesting. I
recoiled in my seat. I was like, oh! It was bad.
Interesting.
So I look forward to that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess go see it if you want to just like turn your brain off, watch superheroes. Ending's not too great either, I don't think.
But I've heard that Oscar Isaac was actually very good for being a character whose motivation that you don't understand at all, but he played Apocalypse, so.
Yeah, well, his motivation, I think, like, you can kind of understand his motivation.
It's like cleanse the earth, and it's like, then what?
Because they spell it out a few times.
Yeah.
In the movie, and, like, you get it. Like, I got what he was trying to do.
Well,
so
I heard it wasn't necessarily as clear, but maybe I'll have to make that estimation when I see it myself. So cool.
And that's kind of what I've been doing. Oh, and then RWBY. I watched RWBY twice in the past 3 months, the whole thing.
Cool.
I am way, I am so in that I'm so in that I'm getting upset there's not more.
Yeah.
Like, I have the worst hiatus fever. And also because the more I think about it, the more I'm like, they short sold me on that. Like, there's so much more that could come out of this part, and they just didn't do it for whatever reason. I'm like, oh, that's so disappointing. And like, the one thing that I want more than ever from RWBY, I don't want RWBY chibi. I don't. Please stop.
Yeah, I
I
saw that and I was like, wait, that's not real, is it? And then I was like, oh my gosh,
no,
it's real.
they announced it on April 1st, so that's why you thought it wasn't real. But
Yeah.
it is, and they've made 5 episodes, so it's been a full month now. And I've watched all 5, and every time I don't laugh, I don't find it funny, I don't get what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
They're not putting in like they're. I know that Team RWBY, Ruby, Weiss, Blake, Yang, I know that they're the main characters, but there's not, like, there's only so many jokes that exist between them because they haven't really been that fleshed out in the show.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about how much time has been spent on certain characters in this show, and I don't want to talk too much because I know you're still watching it, but they don't spend a whole lot of time on the main team. They spend more time on like the secondary team.
And hey, I'm cool with that because I like a lot of the secondary characters a lot.
In my opinion, they do a great job with these secondary interactions, and in that way, like, they don't have enough material to do this chibi thing and make the jokes funny consistently. Because what jokes you've got one joke about this one character that they've made in all 5 episodes so far. They've made another joke about this other character based on one scene in the first episode. They already killed their Ruby likes cookies joke. And that happened. It's the only basis for that joke is she ate a plate of cookies in the first episode.
Yeah, like really, really fast.
Therefore Ruby likes cookies. And so we got a chibi skit about her trying to make cookies and she doesn't finish because she eats all the ingredients beforehand because she loves cookies so much. That joke has now been burned.
Yeah, failing at cooking the cookies, it has burned.
Yeah. There's nothing left there. What other jokes can be made? I don't know. So, and don't stop making chibi, please. Give me lore about Remnant. Give me lore about the world. They have these 2 vital components of this built world, aura and semblances. And they're so key to the characters and what they're able to do and why they can do things and what happens, and like everything is linked to aura and semblances, and they are the most abstract, non-understandable, unclear, undefined things. They're labels for stuff that happens. And so I'm having discussions with people about like things that I see that don't make any sense. And I'm like, I don't understand this. And all the responses I get are just like, they just slap the word aura on top of it. And then they're like, well, they can do that. Like, you remember in episode 1, Glinda stops, like, she makes a bunch of clouds over that carrier, and then they shoot hail onto the thing. Her semblance is telekinesis, which means she can pick stuff up and move it.
Yeah, so
and
how did she So how did she do
So
that?
how did she make giant storm clouds that can shoot like motorcycle-sized hail spikes at things? I don't get it. And how does that happen? And and the responses I get are like I'm like sitting up and like rubbing my knees right now because I'm really feeling I don't, and so I try and bring this up with people, and I get, well, it's probably just her aura she controlled the aura of the water molecule, and I'm like, no, that's not what she can do. Are you saying if there's limitless, like, potential for any one person? Why even have these clearly defined abilities? Like,
Yeah.
Pyrrha can control metal. Okay. So does that mean she can pull metal out of the ground? You see in another episode, one character uses his bare hands to catch a giant snake's fangs, and then that's never addressed again, ever. And he never uses that ability ever again. Wouldn't that save him so much time and effort to just like use his bare hand to stop an attack and then just kill the thing? Like, I don't get it. So and that happens. That happens consistently.
I can tell. Yeah, I can tell.
I'm very passionate.
Yeah, I can tell that you really love it because, like, that's why it's like, why is it like this?
And
just tell me.
I really the lore of this series is paper thin and like puddle deep. It's so like they have the world that they've built with these core concepts, and then they've thrown characters in it and are making a story. And because there's nothing underneath it, there's no definition of the culture of this place or religion, or they haven't fleshed out all these concepts yet, there's not enough there to make it consistent. And and my problem is, and why I'm so passionate, is because that top layer that we have is incredibly compelling, and it has the potential to be very good. Yeah. And like this idea that Monteum had is a killer idea, and I understand why he got money for it.
Yeah.
But all it is the idea, and now we're starting a 4th season, and we still only have the idea. So
yeah, so they really need to step it up, I think, in the next season, if that's the case.
They really do. I really want Volume 4 to be better because I'm not happy with the way Volume 3 ended, and I'm not happy with the way Volume 3 ended, but I could be if certain things happen in Volume 4.
Yeah.
And I really want those things to happen really badly. So I don't know. I had no outlet to talk about RWBY because you hadn't seen it. Dubs hasn't seen it. My family, my friends haven't watched it. I showed it to a couple people, but it's only like 2 people, and then they watched it with me, so they have all the same ideas as I do. So I joined a Discord specific to like RWBY, and so I've been like venting all these things to people on the Discord, getting in arguments and all. It's been a fun time.
That sounds great.
Mm-hmm. So that's my experience with RWBY.
Dude, yeah. See, the thing that's interesting, because now that almost makes it a little more daunting to me, because I thought that since there are 3 seasons, I would have thought they would have gotten into a little bit more things like that. But well, that's too bad. But hey, I've really enjoyed really enjoyed my time with it so far. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's definitely a good watch. So I'm glad that you're actually seeing it.
For sure.
One more thing about RWBY is I love it a lot. Great show. I might watch it a 3rd time. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But I've also it's like, and the thing about the world is it's so interesting that it's inspired me to actually like try and come up with my own characters that could exist in it. So
dude,
I've come up with 4 characters based on what we know about the series and like the world and how it works, and I had fun doing that. So like it's just like there's so much, and it just comes back to there's so much there that just hasn't been explored yet, and I want there to be more, and it's just not there yet, and I'm kind of I love it, but it's disappointing.
Yeah. That it's funny you talking about it like that though. Reminded me of, I'm going to bring in some other anime that I totally forgot I'd been watching. Just as a little addendum. No, I'm not going to dwell too long on it here, but I suffered along through Sword Art Online with dubs. I watched the show a while ago.
Did you?
Oh, I did. Oh, yeah. Oh, did we? One of my favorite times was at the end of an episode, a particularly disappointing episode. I think it was the one where it's like that 2-episode arc where they're like looking at player killers, or they're trying to find that player killer or whatever in a town, and then it ends in like the dumbest way possible. And it ends really, really stupidly, and then Dubs goes, "I want to kill myself, Alec." And it just came out of nowhere because both of us were like really quiet, and then he's like, "I want to kill," and I was like, "Dude, I know."
Oh, that's the most accurate.
Yeah, that's okay. So I know some people who might be listening to this, you can like Sword Art Online. That's fine. That's okay. But I cannot. That to me is the show that is the epitome of a fantastic idea executed in the worst possible way.
Oh
Yes.
Man, I'm 100% on board with that. I watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
I watched the whole thing on my own because I was like,
oh, I did. Originally, I did too. I've made through it twice now. I never want to watch it again.
I just went screw it, and I watched season 1 and I watched season 2, and I watched season 1 just like, the way anyone else would, and I finished it and I was like, there's the second one, and then I watched the second season at double speed so I could watch it in half the time because I didn't want to have to cut through it.
Now for season 2, are we talking about part 2 of the first series?
No,
or?
I am talking about Gun Gale.
Oh, Gun Gale Online. Oh, okay. See, I've heard
I watched that at double speed.
I've heard I've heard SAO 2 is actually okay. People I know have seen it say that it's fine. It's a lot better than the first season, but it's still not great. I kind of want to watch it at some point, but
the first season, parts of the first season, parts of the first half of the first season are good.
Yeah, no.
Until they kill off Asuna's everything that makes Asuna interesting.
Yeah, except to me they did that when they got married. Spoiler alert, but really I don't. Honestly, like there's really no spoiler alert at this point. Everybody's seen Sword Art Online, so it's it's just there's so much potential. Even if you see, because originally when you're seeing previews for it, you think, oh, cool, it's like an action show where they'll die if they die in the game in real life, which is the
you die in the game, you die in
real life. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's a really fantastic concept.
What awful movie was that quote from? I forget.
No, it was from that show. You die in the game, you die in real life. Yeah, he says it like that.
I remember this awful movie Game. Was it Gamer? The movie Gamer?
Did they say that in that too?
Yeah. Hey, funnily enough, guess who was in Gamer?
Who?
Gerard Butler.
What? That's too bad.
Yeah. In a future mind-controlling game, death row convicts are forced to battle in a Doom-type environment.
Yeah. Oh, I remember. Yeah, I remember hearing about it.
I remember the trailer had one of the, I think it was it was Michael C. Hall who played. Who was like I think it was Michael C. Hall. It's just a close-up of his face talking to Gerard Butler. He just goes, "If you die in the game, you die for real." And then there was a huge explosion, and Gerard Butler like dove out of the way. Like,
yeah. So, but okay. So you think that, all right, that's cool. Then you find out that it's a romance. It's really a romance story, and
Yeah.
Even that, you like when I first heard that, I was a little disappointed. I was like, oh, well, but
You were disappointed. You were like, okay.
yeah, you could do something really interesting with that though. Still.
Yeah.
But this show doesn't do that.
It doesn't either.
It doesn't do any of that.
It's the epitome of a young adult male power fantasy.
Oh, 100%.
Where you are the main character, you are the best, you are the coolest. Every girl wants
you.
You have the spurned women's club during during the Gun Gale arc in the second season.
Really, they have like a group of
Asuna, the sword girl, the little dragon girl, and Suguha are all sitting in the the combined game. You know, they're all sitting in the black guy's bar in the combined game, watching Gun Gale on TV. Well. Kirito's hanging out with what's her name in Gun Gale.
See, okay.
Sinna.
See, the thing,
and Mother's Basement or whoever, somebody, oh no, Digibro who did a review just called them the Spurned Women's Club.
Well, that's basically what they are.
And I thought that was hilarious. The Spurned Women's Club.
Oh, that's way too accurate though. That's the problem.
Oh, it's so awful.
It's really, it is a shame because the thing is like there are aspects of that show that I really, really like. Character design, art design, music. I even kind of like the characters to a certain degree. Even though they're all really one-dimensional.
Kirito is unrelatable.
But I like him somehow.
He is more relatable in the abridged version because they actually made him have character traits.
Oh, I bet. The thing is, though, that Asuna, I really like Asuna a lot. But then when they get married or whatever, then she's just like, I'm a stereotypical girl character, and then the second half she's like the prize to be won. At the end of the game,
I hated that so much.
It was so dumb.
I just hated everything. And it's not even. It is 100% nothing to do with Asuna. I hated everything that had to do with Asuna in the Elfheim.
Oh, you mean how the main villain was a hate sink?
Yeah.
Everything
I was just like, that's
laziest.
Yeah. That's the laziest thing. and it's worse because I actually hated him, and then I hated that it was so lazy, so I hated him more.
Yeah, I know. Except I think I started turning my hate for it towards the author.
Yeah.
Because it was oh my it's so bad. But
years.
But yeah, so
I can't quote that thing on air, but you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah. Oh, trust me. Yeah, I told Dubs about that too. Which he got a kick out of. So the thing is like that show, I really like the first few episodes, even though the pacing of that show is very baffling for one thing. Mm-hmm. But I do like the first few episodes, the first 3 episodes or so are really, really good, especially episode 3, where he has to deal with the there's just people that die and stuff in it, and it's just it's actually a really well done episode. But then they kind of just forget about that for the rest of the series and none of it matters anymore.
Yeah, they really do.
And it's okay, thanks for that. For nothing.
Thanks for dying for no reason.
And then one of my least favorite things is when they are turning Asuna into from probably the most compelling character into the least interesting character now, is when she was so all of my motivations were of this thing that happened off screen that you didn't see. But now I'm and I was why did you do that? Why I was why? Just everything about that show, it just makes me ask why. So yeah, a lot of potential. The show had an amazing amount of potential, especially because episode 1 is freaking great. Like,
Yeah.
it's just a great episode. And then you get to episode 2 and you're like, what is happening right now?
Yeah.
It's like 6 months later, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What? Like, oh no, it's a month later, and then like the next
Yeah.
episode is like a year happens in
Yeah.
the span of an episode, and you're like, why?
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
And the amount of I don't like the direction of the episodes. I think was poor in a lot of cases too.
Well, I think they adhered to the source
the
material.
decisions. Yeah, and the decision to do so is the problem.
Yeah.
Because there are so many scenes of exposition at a table, exposition at a table, exposition sitting, exposition standing somewhere, exposition at a table, and you're like, okay, I thought this was an action show. Like, you're in a video game world doing stuff, and exposition is happening sitting down eating something. Exposition is happening standing in a room.
Yeah.
Exposition. And if that's the way it was in the source material, then that's bad writing on the author's part.
Yeah.
If it was different if it wasn't in the source material, then the director of the show screwed it up and made it worse.
Yeah. Also, don't even get me started on Yui. Terrible character. That's I like how Dubs was like, Alec, just let me don't say anything, just let me experience it. And probably about 10 minutes after she was introduced, he was like, "Oh, I get it. Her entire character is that she's cute." And I was like, "Yep. Now you know why I hate these episodes."
And also, death means nothing because of Yui.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I don't. Yeah. So anyway, that show has to do with potential. So we watched that, but we one of the things we've been doing is watching Bleach.
Yeah.
And Bleach is really interesting because I think that show for me is in a so bad that it's good type territory. There are things in it that are genuinely really well done, and I like really have to applaud Kubo for doing it. But then there are other things in it that I'm just like,
it's your guilty pleasure.
It really is my guilty pleasure. I really like watching that show, but there are things in it that I'm just like that are like, because they play the whole thing kind of straight, even though there's like the comic relief is like really bizarre in that show, but when it's being played straight and then just something really stupid happens, it's the funniest thing when Narm happens, and it's just it's fun to watch because of how bad it is, but that's the thing, is that there are like genuinely like really good things that happen in it that I'm like, wow, that was really well done, like kind of surprised, that kind of taking me by surprise, but so that's been fun. We do that every once in a while, but so whenever, yeah, that's pretty much it. We went on for a while there, but good.
Yeah, it's almost 2.5 hours or more of
just
us talking about catching up. Yeah. Right. So next, then
we can make these pretty quick. We don't really have a whole lot of news to talk about. We just sort of spur of the moment thing. We don't really intend to go into detail here because let's try to keep these short. We want to try to keep the episode short, but since we love talking and we love, waffling about things, it's a good time had by all, but not everybody has 2-hour attention spans, so
yeah.
We're gonna
I do. I have to listen. I listen to podcasts when I'm at work. I'm listening to a 5-hour podcast right now. The season finale of like all the old Newgrounds anime, like all the Newgrounds animators, like Stamper, Rice Pirate, Oni NG. They have a podcast, and they have this like a season finale episode from like a year ago, and I'm listening to that now.
It's 5 hours. That's crazy.
It's 5 hours, yeah, because halfway through they found Tom. Tom, what's his name?
Tomska?
No, not Tomska. He's like the
Tom
CEO.
Tom Folk.
Tom Folk. Yeah. They found him, like, just wandering around, apparently, and they dragged him in, and they had, like, another entire podcast with Tom there.
Cool.
So I'm, like, halfway through that. So I have the attention span for those things, but I'm sure a lot of people don't, so...
But...
a good welcome back, hurrah. So let's get into the news
absolutely.
and do this quickly.
Because we only have, like, really two kind of things to talk about. Because E3's coming up And so there's a little bit of news
Yes.
pertaining to that. We'll do our E3 predictions and whatnot next week, but but for now, we can talk about. So Nintendo sort of made a bit of a splash when they announced that they weren't going to be having a digital event this year. So they've kind of scaled back yet again, even more so than they have in the past. The past few years, they've just done their digital event. They haven't had a big press conference at E3. They've instead kind of done more intimate. Their they do little videos like their Nintendo Directs do. And honestly, I would say that those have worked in their favor. I think that they've been really, really great. Especially the first one. Last year's wasn't received nearly as well, but I still thought it was great. But the year before that, especially when they had robot chicken stuff in it, was hysterical. And they did a really good job with that. And last year they had Jim Henson like Muppet stuff, which was like really bizarre.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and that was a lot of fun too. But yeah, so this year they kind of made a big splash because they announced a lot of different things like really close to each other. One being that The Legend of Zelda wouldn't be released this year. That it would be a Wii U game and an NX game.
And also they're not talking about the NX.
And they're not going to be talking about the NX at E3.
Don't ask about the NX.
And the only game that was going to be they were going to have anything to do with at E3 would be Zelda.
Yeah. And then so they're going to have Zelda that they're not so they've snubbed the Wii U for a mainline Zelda game. Like a new mainline Zelda game. They gave it HD Wind Waker and HD Twilight Princess. The game that was supposed to come out for the Wii U 2 years ago has now been pushed to last year has now been pushed to next year for the new console.
For the launch
the launch of the new console that they're not going to talk about. So.
And I'm assuming they're going to just have the Wii U playable there?
Yeah. And so what do you so here's the thing about that, like, what do you think is going to happen? So people are going to show up to try and play this game they're going to have the Wii U build playable, and what question is going to come out? So what kind of control changes are you going to make to compensate for the NX controls?
Because the response is going
to be, we're not talking about the NX. So not only do we not have any information, they're not going to talk about it, but they're going to show us this game for the Wii U that it's not even supposed to be for the Wii U anymore, pretty much.
Yeah, it's very, very strange. I can kind of understand, because it really worked well in their favor for delaying Twilight Princess to make it a Wii launch game. It really worked in their favor because the Wii launched and it was just a smashing success.
I played Twilight Princess on the Wii.
Yeah, it's a great game, and honestly, the HD remake, great game. It still holds up. One thing I read, one review I read, calls it a masterclass in game design, and other than a few different problems I have with that game, I completely agree with that. It is the evolution of everything that was great about Ocarina of Time in a more modern aesthetic. Back when 2006, when it 10 years ago when it first came out, but it really did show that Nintendo had a grasp of three-dimensional gaming and really knew what they were doing. There are some little nitpicks I have about that game, but overall it's just a fantastic adventure. It really is. But yeah, the news about this though is so. The thing is about the NX is that nobody knows anything about it still. There's so many different rumors and theories as to what it is, because they talk about it as a platform and they don't call it a console, which makes people think that it's going to be like a new blending of handheld gaming and console gaming.
So,
but that's the thing, is that nobody knows. Nobody has any idea really what it's going to be, except for the people who've gotten dev kits, I'm assuming. So it's really secretive. They've done a really good job, even with all the because there's so many different rumors. It's hard to know what what it is, what it's going to be. But so all those things in consideration. Apparently, the demo at E3 is going to be 90 minutes long. It's a 90-minute demo that people who are going to be on the show floor can play. That's a really long demo. And
that is a really long
that's
demo.
That's actually kind of exciting, because I think if that's just your demo, that game is going to be huge.
Yeah.
It's going to be a huge game. And I that's really, that's kind of exciting. But what's simultaneously strange about that is that E3 is like a developer's kind of thing. It's not really a fan expo. Like, fans can go to it if you know people in the industry. You can get in to go as sort of a guest, but it's not really open to the public in the same way as something like PAX is.
Yeah,
it's really easy. If you camp out online, it's easy to get tickets for.
Yeah.
Or something like just any other sort of convention like that. It's Anime Expo or whatever. It's not really a fan event so much as a developer and press event, especially a press event. So it's really strange that they'd use it to like showcase a specific game, but they have announced that they're going to be live streaming, I think, all 4 days of E3, like pretty much nonstop, I think.
Are live streaming people playing the demo?
They're going to be live streaming the people playing the demo. They're going to be live streaming stuff and they're going to be releasing all sorts of new information about that game, but they're also going to be doing stuff about Pokemon Sun and Moon.
Perfect.
They're going to be doing stuff about Pokemon Go, which I'm very interested in, and how that's going to play out.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to talk about Monster Hunter Generations, Dragon Quest VII, Fragments of the Forgotten Past, which is the 3DS port/remake of Dragon Quest VII, which is pretty exciting for a lot of people. And they're also going to have stuff about Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE, which is
that is SMT crossover with Fire Emblem.
Yes, which a lot of people.
Shin Megami Tensei is a kind of like, it's Pokemon with demons. I guess.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, some games more so than other ones. It's it's kind of weird. It has like a lot of different fan bases kind of not too happy with it.
Because it's weird. That whole the Shin Megami Tensei side of things is so weird, because they've got they've got Shin Megami Tensei and Persona, which came off of that and is kind of related, and then there's Devil Survivor.
There's Devil Survivor. There's Devil Summoner. There's Digital Devil Saga. There's all kinds of different.
So, but the mainline thing is SMT, and we got SMT4 for the 360. I don't know how many
3DS.
years. 3DS. Sorry, I don't know how many years ago.
That was 2 or 3 years ago. Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse, or it was called Shin Megami Tensei 4 Final in Japan. That's Apocalypse is coming out later this year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually, even though it's called Shin Megami Tensei 4, it's not an expansion of the game. It's actually a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be coming out later this year. So that's great. That series is still getting love. But I think a lot of people, when they saw Tokyo Mirage Sessions for the first time, like actual stuff about it, they were surprised, because it was less Shin Megami Tensei and more Persona.
More Persona, yeah.
Because it's really like, but it's not even quite that, because it's like it has a totally different focus. Because like a lot of those is like kind of focusing on school drama and sort of have the demon supernatural element on top of that.
Persona is like you play as like a high school kid who's doing high school, and then at night you have to go and fight demons.
Yeah, more or less.
With your demon Pokemon friends. And there's a big...
Yeah. That's pretty much the best way to describe it.
There's a big base you have to clear out, and so you just try and clear floors of this dungeon in a certain period of time.
Yeah.
And when you're not clearing the dungeon, you can go and talk to other characters and like have interactions with them, and you kind of have like a social... It's almost like... It's the same kind of thing as where like you build relationships like you would in a visual novel.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's honestly why it's as popular as it is with a lot of people, with a lot of niche fans of niche gaming and stuff like that, because it does have a lot of elements of games like that, which is why Persona 5 is being so, people are really, really excited about that game.
Yeah, I got upset when it got delayed because I want it now.
Yeah.
I want it now.
Yeah, we're probably not going to get it till next year sometime, but...
No, it's coming out in the fall.
Well, it's coming out in Japan in the fall. They haven't announced a North American release date for it yet. The people, the Persona team at Atlas has been saying that they really want it to be as close as possible because they know how popular it is here. So they want it to be as close as possible to get a Western release, but I don't think that they haven't really solidified when that's going to be yet. I'm hoping maybe just maybe they can get it here by December, but
yeah,
that would be really great. I'd be really happy about that.
I'd be really happy about that too. And bringing this back to Tokyo Mirage Sessions, Persona is arguably the more popular franchise between Shin Megami Tensei and Persona.
Mm-hmm.
So having Tokyo Mirage Sessions be like, it's through development it was SMT cross Fire Emblem, and now it's taking more the Persona route. So people who are upset that it's not SMT, it's more the other thing, the spin-off game.
Yeah.
I don't know how Fire Emblem's going to connect with that either.
Okay, so Fire Emblem, basically the way that connects is all through monsters and summons. And pretty much
instead of having your demon Pokemon, you get to bring Marth out of your butt and then fight.
I mean, more or less. I mean, like I saw like a little teaser for it, and it showed one of the enemies they were facing was based on Gangrel, who was a bad guy in Fire Emblem Awakening.
Yeah, I remember.
And I was like, hey, yeah, I can see that. They're like, Gangrel. They're like, this character looks familiar, and I was like, yeah, of course.
There you go. Yeah.
But the thing is like it's alienated Fire Emblem fans, because I think they were hoping that they would actually bear a little bit more resemblance to Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
Additionally, on top of that, so even though it's more similar to Persona, it's taking a really weird, huge focus on idol culture in Japan, which is like
really,
yeah, it's
awesome.
Like it's kind of strange. But the thing is that there's been a lot of controversy.
I want that though.
Oh, I do too. I think it's awesome. I think it's great.
I want to play idol dress up with my character.
Okay, yeah, dude. I'm actually really looking forward to it. But the thing I'm not looking forward to is that they've I mean that they've been censoring the game kind of a lot.
Yeah. Well,
in so much so that I can understand, like, when you're localizing something, sometimes, you want to remove stuff. Like in Xenoblade Chronicles Cross, when that came out, they changed one of the outfits of one of the characters because she's like a 13-year-old girl, and one of the outfits was like really, really skimpy, and it was kind of uncomfortable. The 13-year-old girl had that. That I can understand. What I don't understand is why they then decided to remove the breast slider as like a character customization thing. Mm-hmm. So you could make your player character a male or female. You can make them look like any way you want. You can make them look like a freaking clown for all you can.
Yeah.
But the fact
like Oblivion.
Yeah, pretty much. But they took the breast slider out because I don't know why. And I just don't really understand the reasoning behind that, because it's like, okay, well, like, think about, like, what if there are people who are like really have like just huge boobs, okay, and they want to make their character and look like them in Xenoblade.
Look like that.
And they can't now because your breasts are only one size. And it's dumb. It's kind of like forcing a specific morality on a large group of people that don't necessarily adhere to that. Because Xenoblade is not a mass appeal game. As much as they wanted to make it a mass appeal game, it doesn't have a mass appeal. It appeals to...
It's niche.
Yeah, it appeals to people like you and me. It does not appeal to like Call of Duty people. They would not even understand what we're talking about right now. And be like, you could make breasts on your Call of Duty characters? What is this? Not to lump Call of Duty people into all the same category, but
breasts.
but yeah, it's just weird. So like they've been removing, altering outfits and content in this game. Like there was one thing where they actually made like the panties on one of the characters that you can kind of see in their upskirt. They made them look like bunched up in the back, so it almost makes it look like they're wearing diapers. And it's like that's like weirder. And I'm like, this is bizarre. Like why? Like I don't understand. Like we're not like.
It's uncomfortable.
It was more uncomfortable.
For them. I mean, to have it all bunched up like that.
It's just it's
like,
weird.
why would they do that?
I don't know. I don't know why they're doing any of it. So like, and there's another thing that people discovered is that they also there are like pictures of girls in swimsuits and stuff in one of the dungeons.
Yeah.
They've taken all of those pictures out and like
so now it's just bare wall dungeons.
Replaced it. Yeah, they replaced it with other pictures. But the thing is like they've changed the whole theme of the dungeon.
Yeah.
So you're changing the intent of what the developers were making. It's like maybe you're uncomfortable with it. Okay, but like just see, and I don't know why they're doing that, because this game is being released as rated teen, and I don't understand why they're doing that. Why they don't, if they're worried about like losing money through making it rated M or something. I don't know why you would do that.
I'm trying to see on my shelf. Were any of the Persona games rated T, or
No, they were all rated M.
Then why would they make this one rated T? Was Fire Emblem rated T?
Yeah, I think it was. Actually, no. Fire Emblem was rated E10 plus, I think.
Huh.
No, the new one was rated T.
The one that's split in two that I don't remember the name of.
Yeah, Fire Emblem.
That got a guy in Smash before it even came out.
Oh yeah, you know.
Who is Corrin? Who is he? Why is he in? Why do we have 6 slots in Smash with Fire Emblem characters, and 4 of them are sword guys with a downbeat counter?
Because they're all cool. Because Fire Emblem's awesome and really popular.
No, I want Simon Belmont in Smash. Get Corrin out of here.
I do too. I think Simon Belmont would have been awesome, but
it's been better than Infinity Fire Emblem characters.
Yeah. Well, Corrin is really different though.
Well, instead of, if we ask Konami for Simon Belmont, they just give us a pachinko machine.
Pachinko machine. Dude, I made.
You're like, isn't this what you wanted? This is video games now.
Dude, I made that joke that you made to me the other day about like, I was like, someone was like, I can't believe that, Konami's doing this to Metal Gear Solid, and I was like, dude, come on, sitting in a pachinko parlor with other 30-somethings smoking and spending your paycheck to paycheck savings away,
blowing out your entire family's savings.
Yeah, I was like, dude, that's
watching beads fall down a wall randomly.
That's the dream right there. That is the dream. And a lot of people thought that was pretty good. So
you're welcome.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, that's too good. So yeah, it's that things about that kind of are like make me upset, but I'm still buying it anyways because I really want to play it.
What?
Tokyo Mirage Sessions.
Okay, yeah, we talked about like 4 games.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I know. Bring it back. Tokyo Mirage Sessions though. Yeah, that's
bring it all the way back to Nintendo.
But that stuff always bugs me. But funnily enough, connecting to censorship in Nintendo, Fire Emblem Fates got content removed also.
Oh, no way.
There was so Pokemon and Me?
Yeah.
Well, there was.
I heard about this.
There was a feature.
The waifu petter thing.
Yeah, there was a feature in. There was
the girls' heads or whatever. Something.
Yeah, and it didn't really do much of anything. I don't. No,
it's just like they sat there on your touch screen and you just got to like poke them in the head with your stylus, and it was like a little hand, and it was just like, "Good job, you did good in that fight," and they were like, "Oh, thank you," and then
Yeah, and I think it sort of like did some stuff with the relationships.
Yeah, because they have the you can pair up your units and whatever, and then in Awakening they like if you paired up a guy and a girl you can get married, and now you can pair up anybody and they'll get married or whatever, and then the married guy and girl characters could give you child characters that had their combined stats and abilities.
Yeah.
So the head petting thing was you got to build up your links or
it was just an extra way. It was an extra way to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But they removed that from the English version of the game, which even people who even my brother was like, okay, So like it's kind of a weird thing, and I don't think I ever would have used it, but I don't really like people removing content from my game just because they feel that it's like unfit for me. It's like he's like I'm 30.
Yeah.
I'm 30 years old.
If I want to buy a waifu petter, I'm gonna buy it. Man.
Yeah, it's like I'm 24 years old. Like it's like I understand that you want to try to appeal to children also.
Yeah.
But like,
and that's the thing.
Fire Emblem isn't really for children.
Appealing to kids is old man McMarketing going video games are for children and not getting that all the kids that he was marketing to, 15 years ago when video games were like coming into the forefront, people were starting to buy home consoles. All those kids are adults now.
Yeah.
And they have adult tastes and want adult things, but marketing man is still going, well, I'm selling to children, so we can't have this in I can't have this in my game. And video games are like, kids aren't playing as many video games. Kids are buying stuff off of the mobile market and playing on their phones. Gaming is a young adult to adult hobby. Yeah.
I mean, like, the thing is like, I can understand Nintendo doing that for some of their things. You want to appeal to a younger audience with some of the stuff. They are kind of a family-centered company. You make stuff like Mario and Zelda and Pokemon and stuff like that. And I get that, but like, just don't leave your adult games. Make them for older people. It's like, leave them alone. Just leave them alone. Censor the really, really weird, uncomfortable stuff, like the 13-year-olds, like, practically naked. That's really not okay.
Yeah.
Again, that's just cultural differences, but like, we're not okay with that over here, and that's fine. Everybody can understand that one. Mm-hmm. But we don't understand why you would just remove content from your game.
Especially one that's tied to a mechanic.
Yeah.
That will get you more characters.
Yeah, I don't know. It's technically because it's not mandatory, and you can do that in other ways. So but even still. So anyway, Nintendo, I love you, but you make really strange decisions like this weird E3 stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They're going to be showing all this stuff off now, so that's at least more than we thought we were going to get. But apparently, on the show floor, it's just going to be Zelda still.
Yeah.
I'm really
get to see gameplay. We haven't seen any trailers or anything about this Zelda since they announced it.
Really, no. Yeah.
So we're finally going to get to see this Zelda. And when they announced it, it was an in-engine pre-recorded gameplay, right?
They showed that cutscene in-engine of Link jumping off Epona and doing that really awesome thing with the bomb arrow.
Yeah.
Then they had a demo at the Game Awards a couple years ago, where it was like a 9-minute demo where Miyamoto and Aonuma were playing and like talking about the game, and like talking about stuff like, you can like get apples off trees and eat them to replenish hearts, and we're also making it so the horse automatically maneuvers around trees because horses don't run into trees.
That's something in Witcher that I liked.
Yeah,
your horse ran around stuff.
Yeah, it's like, even if you're directing them towards it, like, your horse would be like, no, I'm not running into a tree, you stupid. So like, they were just showing off stuff like that, and they didn't really show off any combat from what I remember, but they showed how big the world map was, and that was impressive.
Yeah.
So but since then, there was one, 15-second thing of, like, Link on a horse, and then they showed the field, and then that was basically it.
Yeah. So finally, this year, we will get to see 90 minutes of actual gameplay on a stream.
Yeah. So we'll see kind of maybe the purpose of this game, like, because it's really nobody's sure as to, like, they've been really vague about it. It's going to be open world, but like,
is it going to be Zelda 1 just 3D?
Yeah.
Is it going to be like Wind Waker kind of directed narrative?
Are there going to be is there still going to be a directed narrative? Is like, because you can do dungeons in any order still, I'm guessing. Yeah. They've kind of said stuff like that. So it's just really interested in seeing where they go from there. So anyway, I don't know. It's a weird year for Nintendo. It's a weird year for E3 in general, I'd say, honestly. But so Well, that's that on the
Yeah.
games front. Just kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Mhm.
We got into talking censorship. Yeah.
Yeah. It's another thing we could talk about for hours. Like we could talk
Yeah.
about, we could have a Pokemon podcast, a censorship podcast.
Censorship in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Nobody can see. Nobody's allowed to see
The smoking.
that he's smoking. So we'll just put a big black bar on half of his face. Jotaro, the coolest.
Oh man. So, what's
That's
it?
a good segue into anime, though.
Yeah.
We talked about Fullmetal Alchemist for a while. This year is kind of a big year for Fullmetal Alchemist for a few reasons. First, and the shorter one, hopefully, is going to be that Funimation, who's an American company that does dubbing work and licensing for anime, brings it over and localizes it for English-speaking audiences, especially North America. They have been rights holders to Fullmetal Alchemist, just media, both series and both movies, for years and years and years. They were responsible for all the dubbing and everything and distribution of English language DVD sales and stuff.
Yeah. By consent of Aniplex, who is the owner of the rights in Japan.
Yes. Of Fullmetal Alchemist in Japan. Aniplex has apparently not... Talks between Funimation and Aniplex apparently have not resulted in Funimation being allowed to continue carrying those licenses. As of July 31st, according to Anime News Network, Funimation will no longer hold the rights to English language distribution of the 2003 Fullmetal Alchemist series. This follows the expiration of rights to the 2009 Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood series and the movie Conqueror of Shambhala, which expired on March 31st.
Which to me is actually really fascinating because last fall is when Funimation got rights to distribute the Blu-ray versions, so the remastered versions of Fullmetal Alchemist 2003 and Conqueror of Shambhala.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually picked up the Blu-ray of Conqueror of Shambhala just because I wanted a nice high-definition version of that. I actually want to get the Blu-ray of the complete series also.
Yeah.
Because there's an amazing collector's edition for it. Like it's like it's like $250 now, so it has actually dropped in price.
Mm-hmm.
That has, I guess, a lot of in jokes and stuff in because it comes with this like hardbound leather thing that's supposed to replicate Ed's journal.
Yeah.
But in it they have like a lot of in jokes and stuff like in the margins and things in it, and it looks really amazing and yeah,
Sounds pretty cool.
I've wanted it for basically since it was announced, but it's just so expensive. So, but it's sad, that they're losing the rights to it. Yeah, so they're losing home video and streaming rights to it. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing so is just Aniplex USA gonna have the rights to it from now on?
I guess. I mean, it seems to me like Funimation was in charge of the distribution of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know how involved Aniplex USA was. Is Aniplex just going to give it to Aniplex USA?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I sure hope not.
I can't find anything about that, and I sure hope not, because Aniplex overcharges for everything.
You can say that again.
Aniplex
Oh my gosh.
overcharges for everything. The Japanese sales, oh my gosh, Tengen Top and Gurren Lagann?
Yeah.
The Japanese DVD sales for 2 episodes of Gurren Lagann cost almost as much as a AAA video game, $60 or so.
What?
Yes, 2 episodes. Don't quote me on that. That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
I don't know where that source was, but that's what I've heard.
So one of the things I've been wanting to do, because I love Kill la Kill, I'm in love with that series, and I've wanted to get that on DVD or Blu-ray for a really long time. Just getting a standard version of the Blu-ray for 4 episodes, so it's split up into 5 different volumes.
Yes.
Because of that, there's only 4 episodes. Getting one of the standard edition is like $40.
Yes.
And I'm like, why? just why? Because then you look at someone like Funimation who compiles all of the usually they're really good about it. Sometimes they do split it into like 2 different volumes or like a 26 episode season.
My Brotherhood DVDs are in two separate volumes, half the season on one, half the season on the other. But that's fine.
And it's fine.
Overall, I paid $25 for the whole entire thing.
Yeah, I actually have it in 5 volumes. Because I got it as it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I probably paid like $70 for all of those together.
Yeah.
Like probably maybe 80. Like I didn't pay that much money for each one. Like it was probably like $25 for each one. So maybe more than that. But like that's not bad for 13 episodes if you're only paying $25 for each episode.
Yeah. Just a little over $1 an episode.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. But like when
it's almost $2 an episode, so like $1.75.
Yeah, and when it's a show like that, I probably would have paid more, honestly.
Yeah.
Because it's something that's just so near and dear to me. But like I don't understand why Aniplex is so expensive with all their things. I've never got that. There are other distribution companies that like NIS has anime, and their spectacular collector's edition for Lull in the Sea or Nagi no Asakara, which is a really popular anime that came out a few years ago. I actually have a friend who, on the standard edition of the DVDs, his review of it is like quoted on there, which is really cool. Their collector's edition, which comes with like so much stuff, is only like $130.
Yeah, and that's not bad at all.
And I think the standard series is like maybe 60, which is that's pretty normal for like a 26 episode thing. Like I saw the Death Note Blu-ray set that I saw is like 70, and I was like, that's a little much for me. But like that you'd be paying that much, like almost that much money for like one set at Aniplex USA.
Yeah.
Which is like 4 episodes.
Yeah.
And it's like, why?
It's insane. It's insane.
I just don't really get it. So it's sad. I don't know. I'm really hoping that maybe someday Funimation can get the rights back. I really hope that, because I love that company and I love what they did with the voice cast and everything.
Their growth since when they started localizing stuff to now has been enormous and impressive, and like they are, in my opinion, the best at what they do. In terms of localizing anime, they are the company that is best suited for it.
Yeah.
Starting off being maybe not the best, because I know that they screwed up a lot of dubs back in like the early 2000s, but since then they've grown and they've worked a lot more with the Japanese. They've picked up more stuff. They've got good talent in, and they've turned into a huge localization mogul for this media, this genre of entertainment. And they are the best. They are the best at what they do. And so having the best doing these sorts of things and holding on to these rights and doing it the right way. They're the best because they've been doing it the right way.
Yeah.
It's disappointing to see that no longer happen, especially since it's something that's so, like, we care about this project so much, or this story so much, and Funimation head is what helped us to find it.
Yeah.
So to see those rights go away now is disappointing, and it's worrying, especially when you see the alternatives.
Yeah. I'm really hoping that, we'll see it released again someday, just for people, because it's something that I went on their site and they do still have, I'm assuming it's just backstock, they still do have Brotherhood on sale on their site.
Yeah.
So that's great, but that's not going to last forever, and those will be out of print soon enough.
Yeah.
So it's just,
maybe they will be sooner because of what else is happening.
Yeah.
Because
people
will want the real thing instead of this other thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you could call it that. This other thing.
This other thing that is happening. Do you have any last points for that before we move on to that other thing?
Yeah, it's just something that's always it's something that's always confused me. Because I know Aniplex has always been, their name is in the beginning of episodes. Yeah. And I've always been confused as to how like Funimation, maybe somebody, if we have people listening to this someday, that would be good. If you could actually explain, if they actually are in the know of how this stuff works, because I've like tried looking into it, and I'm so confused.
No idea. Yeah, it's all legal mumbo jumbo.
Yeah.
You need lawyers and.
Yeah, I don't get how it all works out. Like how Funimation has distribution rights, but Aniplex is still like the rights holder, and they can grant the license to do that, but then they're not renewing it for whatever reason, and I don't understand why you wouldn't do that. But
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe it's just because Fullmetal Alchemist doesn't, it's not new anymore.
No, it's not. It's not.
It's old. It's old.
Almost a decade old.
Yeah. And is over a decade old in the original series case.
The manga's over a decade old.
Yeah, and then
definitely.
Yeah. And 2003, obviously. So.
Oh, I had my window open and it's raining. Now my room's all soaked. Crap.
Good job, dude. Nice.
It was hot. Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right. We're talking about. So Fullmetal Alchemist is getting old, and they've decided they're losing the rights, but they've decided to try and save the brand.
Some genius in Japan has decided to try to save the brand.
Save the brand that doesn't need save. They're trying to save the brand that is #1 rated amongst all users of MyAnimeList.com. And the best show that you can watch, as voted on by hundreds of thousands of people.
Oh, except for Gintama, which is only by tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
So that doesn't count.
So, how have they decided to save the brand?
Well, they've decided to pull an Attack on Titan. And make a live action movie.
Oh, yeah.
Or pull a Death Note, maybe.
Pull a Death Note. Just gotta, whatever, money might happen, quick. Throw no money at it so we can make a lot of money. It's just disappointing.
Yeah, it is.
It's disappointing that Aniplex might end up selling Fullmetal Alchemist for $90 million per episode. It's also disappointing that this movie's being made.
It's just the movie is being made in general.
This is coming from two people who have said multiple times through this past, 3 hours, oh, Fullmetal Alchemist is it's my favorite show that's ever been made.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, my favorite. And I hate this. I hate reading about it. I hate hearing about it. I hate seeing things that have to do with it. I can't handle it. It's not what I want. And it's more than not what I want. It's not what I want, and nobody asked for it, and it's not going to be good, and they're doing it wrong.
Yeah, there's just so many. Okay, so just to back up a little bit, they're making a live action film adaptation of Fullmetal Alchemist. I don't know which series they're basing it on.
They are basing it on. I think I saw they said they're trying to squeeze in the entirety of the 2003 series is what I think it is.
Which that's weird. I don't. That seems like it would be harder to me.
They're trying to. I have a couple.
I know I know I read that they said they're trying to fit the whole story into 1 2-hour movie, and I'm like, how are you ever going to do that?
That's what it says in the article that I have up. They're trying to fit the whole story into a 2.5-hour movie. We want to create a wonderful film that will use techniques that challenge Hollywood on $0. $0 budget.
Yeah, so the problem obviously that me and Chris have with this is that if you see the results of other Japanese live action adaptations, is that the real big problem is that they just don't. If you look at the animation or the CG effects and things, they're just really bad. Really bad.
Really bad.
Like, I think that's kind of why, other than the fact that it didn't really follow the story and made all kinds of stupid ideas, that's kind of the problem the Attack on Titan movie
is. Yeah, it just
right?
it diverted from the show and the manga so hard. It just wasn't. It didn't match up and it didn't work. So the problem that I have with this is just they're not going to be able to do the show justice in terms of what it was visually able to accomplish through the anime process. The other problem I have, and this is kind of like, this is a touchy subject, and I'm just going to jump right into it because I've brought this up. Like, this is what I keep coming back to this, because it's the parallel is so apparent in stuff that is going on in our society.
Yeah, in our filmmaking stuff.
In mainstream film, Hollywood society, this is happening. The great thing about the medium of anime is that the creator, or manga and animes, the creator can tell whatever story they want, put it wherever they want, and have whatever happens there, just whatever they want, they can do it. The thing about Fullmetal Alchemist is that Hiromu Arakawa wrote it specifically to take place in a Germanic place, an analog to, Central Europe in our world terms, with a very clear distinction between the Central European place, a Northern European place, a Middle Eastern analog, and a very distinct and very different looking group of people that come from the East. A very distinct Asian parallel, which firmly cements the demographic of the characters in Fullmetal Alchemist as being white Germanic peoples, ethnic backgrounds. The decision then for this movie to be made by being made by a Japanese studio for a primarily Japanese audience, they've cast Japanese-speaking Japanese people in these roles of characters that are of white Germanic descent. And to me, that, it's the same problem as the movie Gods of Egypt having a bunch of white people in it for this, playing Egyptian characters. So, it's the same thing. It's washing the cast with a certain race of people because that's your majority, even though the story takes place in a specific area that have a specific ethnic background associated with it.
Or I think, to use an even better example, because Gods of Egypt is probably nobody even cared, knows that movie exists. We'll use a more famous example, The Last Airbender.
Boom. That's even better.
Utilizing white people for clearly Inuit people.
Yeah.
They did have some ethnic divides. Yeah. Sort of.
They had the Fire Nation was Indian,
which is a strange choice, but it's okay.
Even though they're distinct, they were pretty Chinese.
They were militant
China in the cartoon. The Earth Kingdom was more southern, Southeast Asian, and they were in the movie. They were more ethnically Chinese. It was
the air nomads were clearly Nepalese.
Yes, and again, Ong was. I just said Ong.
You said Ong. Ong. Yop yop opa. Yop yop.
Yop yop opa. Aang was cast as a white.
Still a white kid.
A white actor was cast to play Aang, who was Nepalese. It's the same thing as that. Everybody who outcried against all of the white people in Last Airbender are going, well, it's Japan, so it's okay in this other case. And it doesn't fly to me, and it makes me pretty upset. On top of everything about how I just hate that this project exists and everything it stands for, the fact that this part is getting swept under the rug when it's already so it's such a hot button topic. Everybody's willing to get up in arms about whitewashing in Hollywood. But
this gets a pass somehow.
And people in the anime community get up in arms about whitewashing in Hollywood, and then they turn around to anime movies like Attack on Titan having an all Japanese cast, despite also having a distinctly Germanic cast of characters, with the specification that there is only one Asian person left in the entire world. The entire world.
Yeah.
There's one Asian person. They just made everybody Asian.
Yeah, that's like a very significant point in the story.
Yes. And it defines a character relationship.
But no.
Two characters' relationship. No, they're still Asian now. Everybody's
it's like it's like very strange.
Oh my gosh! And in Fullmetal Alchemist, there's all the characters: Edward Elric, Alphonse Elric, Bradley.
You listen to those names and they're just like they just scream German at you.
Then in this show, a character shows up. His name is Ling Yao, and he is distinctly different ethnically from these people, from the main cast of characters. There's a distinct, you can tell, and it's so obvious, and Xing is supposed to be an analog to Asia, meaning that the main story of Fullmetal Alchemist, Amestris, is a European-based analog country.
I think another thing that's
the biggest punch in the balls about this whole thing is they're filming it all in Italy.
Yeah.
That's just like,
so they're filming it in the country where they should be.
And then it's just like they just strap me to a wall and they're just like kicking me right in the crotch. It's like, yeah, you like that? You gonna buy this? No, I'm not gonna buy it. I'm not gonna. Yeah. I'm going to do everything I can to keep people from seeing it.
Yeah. If I ever end up seeing it, which I might, I'm going to go out of my way to not pay money for it.
Don't watch it.
I probably. I feel like morbid curiosity will get the better of me.
I am never.
I really just don't want to, though.
Related to this.
I don't want. Yeah.
It'll come out and people will start putting screenshots up online, and I will make a point to never look at one.
Yeah, I don't.
If I see so much as a pixel, I'm going to close the window. And I know. And the thing about that is, I know my decision to do that is completely futile because I'm the only person that's going to take it to that extreme.
Yeah.
But it's a moral victory for me. It makes me feel like I have righted a wrong in the world, and therefore I'm going to do it.
Yeah, it is disappointing that. I mean, this would be one thing. This would be the one anime that I would be totally okay with a Western make of it. Yeah, I would be okay with a Hollywood creation of this because if they cast it right.
I've been praying that Fullmetal Alchemist would make a great AMC show. You know?
Yeah.
HBO, you pay same format as Game of Thrones. If you have HBO, you get this show because it's kind of intended for it's marketed towards teenage boys, but if you do it in live action, it definitely is going to appear to be more for adults, just in terms of tone, and the type of material that's covered. So having it on HBO, having it on AMC, it would work well in that kind of format to have maybe a half-hour block, AMC show in between your Walking Dead and your Breaking Bad. I've been wishing that's what the next step would be. Recreate Brotherhood shot for shot with real people and put it on AMC. I would be in heaven.
That would be. I mean, I think they could do.
Instead, I get this. Yeah. Instead, I get the one thing I don't want. The thing that I absolutely don't want.
Well, I mean, there's been all kinds of different anime live action adaptation ideas. So there's been the Akira one has been in talks for years and years and years and years, and that's probably never going to happen, which is good because for a long time they were saying they were going to move Neo Tokyo to Neo LA or Neo New York City,
Yeah.
which in my opinion just totally ruins everything that made it. Akira is very specifically a Japanese story, and you really have to tell it as a Japanese story. And,
Yeah.
That movie is brilliant on so many levels, but that's to me that's something that's I think is just untouchable. You should not mess with that. You should not try to do anything with that. Especially when you watch that movie, they have, which most anime films do not do, all of the talking is lip synced to the Japanese dub, like perfectly. Like that doesn't happen. And that's just amazing and kind of monumental. But that aside, there's that one. They've talked about Cowboy Bebop for a long time.
Yeah.
I as much as sacred as I hold that, I probably would be kind of okay with
and I
with
think
that going on.
I'd be okay with it too, but I don't see how that would translate into a live action thing. If they wanted to make it a movie, I don't know how that would work as a movie. It would really work best as recreating the show.
I think you could do
episodes with live people.
You could do a standalone type of thing, I think, with it, kind of like. But I don't know. That's one that I'm kind of okay with. But then there's other ones like they've talked about Evangelion, and they did this. They were talking about the same sort of thing of like.
Did you see that thing? Do you remember that fake teaser thing?
Evangelion versus Godzilla?
No, they did like a 45-second clip. It was like a 45-second clip of the Eva startup when they're getting ready to launch it.
Yeah.
And it was all like it was CG'd, but it was CG'd to look like a set like from a movie. And they had a big CG'd Unit 1, and they panned up from the feet to the head, and then like the eyes like lit up and turned on at the end of it, and it looked like it was a scene from a movie, like a live action Ava movie. It was super cool. I'll probably send it to you after we're done recording.
Yeah, I don't think I saw that. Yeah, I'll have to take a look at
I remember it, and it was like I was like that would be awesome if they made the show into a movie with like live action, but there'd be so much CG, the budget would be huge. That would have to be a Hollywood movie.
Yeah, I don't think they could ever do that. But see, that's another thing where I don't think they can't make the characters white there either.
No, they
except
can't,
for you could make Asuka.
Asuka would have to be half because her mom's Japanese.
I don't remember. They changed it in the rebuild films.
In the rebuild,
she's like almost. Yeah, I don't remember what they did. They did something totally different in that. Yeah.
We could have a whole episode about Ava too.
Oh, dude, that show is crazy. But yeah, then there's the Dragon Ball movie, which was awful.
Yeah. Another example of whitewashing.
Whitewashing for no reason. Really, there was no reason why they did that, especially because they had like Japanese people.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Chow Yun-fat was Master Roshi.
And are you ready for this? I'm about to blow your mind with an example of how casting should go right, like how casting goes right. Did you ever see 47 Ronin?
No, but I heard really good things about it.
So Keanu Reeves is the main character, but there's a story reason for him to be there, kind of like Tom Cruise in Last Samurai.
Mm-hmm.
They imported Japanese guys and gals, had them learn English to play these roles because it's feudal Japan, a bunch of samurai, a bunch of like Ronin, which are like rogue samurai.
Yeah.
All played by Japanese guys. And it was awesome. And like seeing that was awesome. And like that's how you cast a movie that set a story about a specific place in a specific time. So you get the right people to match it. The 47 Ronin story is a really famous Japanese legend about like redemption. And it was a pretty cool movie. I thought it was pretty cool just because I'm a huge weeb and I like Japanese stuff.
Yeah, really.
But it wasn't. It got like I feel like it got reamed critically. But anyway.
Yeah, but people I knew that saw it said they really liked it. So
it was a good like I had a good time watching it. Anyway, That's how you cast a movie correctly, and that's how Hollywood should cast a movie correctly. That's what it looks like when they get it right. And when they get it wrong, you get Dragon Ball Evolution, You get Last Airbender, you get Attack on Titan, and you get this Fullmetal Alchemist movie.
Yeah, and
That's
it's just
wrong.
yeah, and I like honestly, it's like surely there must be actors and actresses in this country or any other country that know Japanese, or even people in Japan, like people like you and me, that know Japanese that could probably act and could probably be in the movie.
There are a good number of like, I know in terms of population, like in terms of population, it's a good number, but in terms of like the percentage of the population, like it's not that many. But there are Japanese citizens that are not ethnically Asian even.
Yeah.
It would just, and maybe some of them can't act. Like, I don't know if they try. If they, the thing is, like, I don't feel like those like people like that were given a fair shot. I don't think that the studio. I don't feel like they took the time to go like, should we, cast ethnically coherent actors for this, for these parts. They just went like, we need to make, like, it feels like they went, we want to make money off of this popular thing. Let's make a movie.
Yeah. And it's just like, you could have even just like imported, English speakers and taught them how to speak Japanese.
Or taught them how to read lines.
Yeah, just like teach them how to say the lines and have them study. You could learn Japanese, a crash course in Japanese in a couple months.
Yeah.
And you could probably learn enough
the important thing would be you would need to be able to read, you'd need to know the phonetics, and you'd need to know the correct tone for different emotions.
Right.
And that's really all you'd need. You could get the script typed up in Roman characters and then have a translator there to help you get the pronunciation correct. And then the director, and then work with the director to make sure you get the emotion across correctly in your tone.
Right. And I'm sure, like, of course, it wouldn't be perfect. It wouldn't be a perfect process. It would be hard and it would take time. But like, to me, I think that it would be worth the effort at the end of the day.
It has more heart in it than what this movie is.
Yeah.
Currently.
Yeah, for sure.
There would be more heart and more care. It would come off as we recognize how big this is. We recognize how well liked this series is, both in terms of manga sales and anime sale and like DVD sales and consumption, and like art online and the amount of the community, like taking time to do that. What we just talked about shows that they can see they don't see it as a product, they see it as a story that they can tell, rather than this is a product that we can unplug from here and plug into a movie.
Yeah.
Stuff
like that just doesn't
better. And I wouldn't have this visceral reaction to all the news that comes out if it seemed like they actually wanted to make it, like if it seemed like they wanted to make this movie, like they wanted to give the fans of this series a movie that they can enjoy. It seems like they're making it because they can.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it does definitely come across that way. It's sad. Really is just disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I do want to see, I do wish that they would just like allow Hollywood to make it in some, because did you know Guillermo del Toro wants to make Monster into a live action series?
That would be awesome.
It would be amazing because
that would be so great.
It works perfect for like a series. It works perfect for he wanted to put it on HBO, and I guess HBO kind of like turned it down. So I think they're trying to pitch it at other places.
Bunch of old dudes look at that and go, it's weird and foreign, and then they say no, and that's why it hasn't happened.
But
yet.
that has a lot of It has a lot of potential because
it's all the suits that sit there and go.
Yeah.
animes from the devil. We can't let our children have this. Nobody can know what a rice ball is. They're called hamburgers.
I love jelly donuts. Nothing beats a good jelly donut.
Yeah. Those people who made that decision are the ones who are now in charge of everything that needs to get managed in Hollywood. And they're just old and backwards, and they don't get it. They're so out of touch with what actually is important and what actually should happen.
Yeah.
They just, this is the way we've done it for years. And it's so disappointing.
I think there's a lot of potential in a monster live action series because first of all, it's a very mature subject matter. Mm-hmm. It's really outside of the norm of what you think of in anime and manga because it's like psychological thriller about like murder and like a young boy murdering people and a person that saved his life now having to taking responsibility for the fact that he saved his life now is seeking to kill him, to take him out, to stop the streaks of murder. Yeah. So it's about a good person trying to become a murderer, trying to kill someone. Yeah. And it's just the moral clashing of this it's so fascinating and it's so deep in what it does. And I think that if given the chance to be a series, I think it'd be great, especially because the author, it really is a masterpiece, and the author did a painstaking set up the timeline of everything perfectly because it all takes place in the 80s and 90s in Germany, and it's interesting that we've now this is now three things about
the Japanese Germany. And the Germans have a pretty interesting relationship, don't they?
Yeah, that's actually fascinating. Now that I think about it, we've now, but it's about a Japanese doctor working in Germany, and it really, I think it has a great potential to have mass appeal because of the subject matter. It's very mature, but it's not like oh it's so dark, but it is dark, but it has, I can see it having a mass appeal for a lot of adult viewers. Mm-hmm. I really want it to take off, but it's been kind of hanging dry for a while, kind of like the Death Note movie. Yeah. But that's the thing, is that the Death Note movie, whoever Shane Black was originally in control of that, and he's the guy who directed Iron Man 3. He directed another film that came out recently that was really well received. I don't remember what. I don't remember. Oh, he wrote Lethal Weapon, the action movie. Yeah, he directed Iron Man 3. The Nice Guys just came out. That's the movie, and I heard that's actually really good.
Russell Crowe.
Yeah, Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling. Yeah, I've heard it's really good. Anyway, he for a while was in control of the Death Note project. And a lot of people were trying to do things with it. I think they were trying to take Ryuk out of it entirely, and he's like, no. Ryuk is entirely important to the they were trying to take the supernatural element out of it, kind of, and he was like, no.
How did that story wouldn't work without the supernatural element?
Yeah. So I don't know. It's really interesting. The live action adaptations of stuff have not gone very well. Does not have a big history. The Death Note Japanese movies, I guess, are okay, from what I've heard. They're not really bad, but they're not really great either. Yeah. But that's another thing where they didn't get the ethnicity right, because L is supposed to be British, but he's Japanese in the show, so...
Anyway, let's end this discussion with a big, long sigh, and move on to talking about. Let's talk a little bit about some stuff that we might do in the future and kind of the plan for what we're doing for the podcast now.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll try to be as less long-winded, long in the teeth.
Yeah, it's the first time we've talked to each other about this in ages.
It has ages. Yeah, it really I Skype with. Me and Chris went to, in case you couldn't tell, I guess we didn't really talk about this. Me and Chris went to college together. I was 2 years ahead of him, in school, and we obviously did the radio show that this podcast is based on. We don't. It's weird because like we've stayed really pretty close friends, but like we don't talk nearly as much as you might think we have based on our rapport. But it I don't know. That's just kind of like a normal guy thing. Like you can, like I do this with Josh all the time. Is another friend of ours, where I'll not talk to him for like 2 months, and then like I'll go visit him, and we'll pick up like right where we left off.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of a really interesting thing that you can do that. Dubs, meanwhile, you got to talk to him a lot.
Yeah.
we
talk to him a lot.
We talk to him a lot, and it's fun. It's a good time, definitely. But it's interesting that we can do that. But yeah, it has been a long time since we've really like sat down and talked about this stuff like in depth. So.
And so that's why we went on for a while, but we do have a plan for how the episodes are going to kind of be structured moving forward. And we have some segments that we're going to do it kind of in segments, and we're just going to like try and do a podcast every week. We have some time during the week that we can record, so try not to date when we're recording. So just to make sure that it stays timeless more or less when we're not talking about current events, but. So I'm going to try and record every week, and we're going to try and stick to a set, like a docket. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah,
we have a little docket that we're going to go through. Try and start off things just talking about what's happened in the past week. If we start anything new, how we're playing through Souls games, how did we accomplish anything, whatever, just talk about our past week. What have you been up to kind of things, news from the past week as well. And then we have a couple segments that we wouldn't have been able to do in a half-hour slot.
No, ever. At all. Yeah, no way.
We want to try and do sort of look at a specific topic and have each episode be based on a specific topic. So we have some ideas just for, like we brought up, we could spend an entire episode talking about Pokemon and everything about Pokemon, or Ava, or talk about censorship or whatever.
Talk about soundtracks that we really like, or anime openings or whatever. We could talk about all kinds of different things. Like the possibilities are honestly endless when you're talking about stuff like this. Or like, I guess this episode was kind of about film adaptations. If you really want to look at it, we sort of talked about that a lot. We do kind of want to have a topic. We don't necessarily have to have a topic every time. But that's definitely something that we'll have in play, just as a possibility, for sure. And and something else we want to do is me and Chris obviously like a lot of things, but because we like a lot of things, we also have very large backlogs of the things that we love. So my anime list, me and Chris have often kept track of all the anime that have interested us over time. I think he's done a better job more consistently of it than I have. But mine's still pretty big. There's a lot of shows on there. So one of the segments I came up with the name Backlog Busters. Basically just we would pick something from each of our anime and game backlogs. I have a very large game backlog. Yeah,
and, his game backlog is my anime backlog. It's just infinite and endless.
Yeah, it's very it's a little daunting. But basically, giving someone, picking something from one of those lists or from the other's list and being like, watch a few episodes of this the next week. Tell me what you think about it at the beginning of next week, or whenever the segment comes around in the next week, and then see what we think about it, if we want to keep it going or if we want to just drop it or whatever. So
yeah. That's going to be a lot of fun. When he explained it to me earlier before we started recording, and I was like, oh, that'd be super cool. And then I looked over at my stack of games that I haven't opened yet that are still in the shrink wrap, and I'm like, yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Oh, yeah, it would be a good idea.
So I'm looking forward to the Backlog Busters thing. That'll be fun.
It will be fun, absolutely.
So that's kind of a a prototype for the way that these episodes are going to go when we record, and we'll try and keep it under this. We've been on a Skype call for almost 4 hours.
Yeah.
We'll try and we've been recording for just about then 3. So we'll try and keep these episodes shorter than 3 hours.
Yeah, it's probably been closer to 3.5 now at this point. But
so we'll try and shoot for 2 is probably a good expectation to have.
Yeah.
2 is probably where we'll top out, or maybe 2.5 if we get really into something. And it'll kind of look like that. Past weeks, any news, a topic, backlog bust update, and then.
Yeah, I'm hoping maybe if we get going, if we start doing pretty well, if we build a little community, that'd be nice. It would be nice.
It would be.
We're not really expecting much of anything, but it would be nice.
Yeah, this is kind of just a way to connect. We're kind of connecting with each other and sharing our hobbies and talking about stuff we love, because we don't get to do that with really anybody else. So.
Yeah, I kind of I podcasted for people who might not know listening. I actually have had several different podcasts I've been on over the past 4 years. I started a podcast based in the community of another podcast, so Podcastception. That was weird. It was very strange. Yeah.
The room starts flipping upside down.
Yeah, every time I recorded, I did it upside down. You might not have known that. So we did that. That was fun. But it didn't last forever. Then I sort of joined another podcast that had been inspired kind of by the one I had been doing there, which is weird. So
you were on the podcast based on the community around the podcast that came from a community of a podcast.
Yes. Very. Yeah. I lost you there. I don't even know what I said anymore.
You just agreed with me.
Okay. So we'll just set it straight. Algin Gamers was a podcast. A bunch of fans of it loved it. We were the Users podcast, the unofficial fan podcast of that. Then another podcast came along called Hey Listen, which, by the way, probably the best name for a podcast you could think of. Hey Listen podcast. Then that podcast sort of was an offshoot of that, because they were sort of inspired by us. They are also a fan of other podcasts in the community, the YouTube gaming community at the time, which is totally different now, by the way. And then that sort of just trailed off because we all got busy with our lives. But yeah, I've kind of I had the itch to do this basically since we were done the radio show, because me and Chris really loved it. But Chris was still busy with school, and I was busy with jobs and other things, and so. But now that I myself am trying to reorganize my life and make it a little bit more less like, yeah, I'll just do whatever when I'm not working, because I really want to do things. I really want to be successful. I really, instead of just languishing and staying the same and just making the same amount of money, I want to make money. I want to do things that I really like, but I also want to improve myself and make myself marketable and make money. I want to be a successful person. So I think just expanding my skill sets in all the areas and all the things that I've loved doing over the past years is kind of what I'm going to be doing. And this is one of the things I love doing this.
Yeah.
I love talking about niche stuff like anime.
Yeah, it's a good way. It's a good way to keep yourself sane, unwind, relax, have fun while you're pushing yourself to try and achieve new stuff.
Absolutely. And I hope that's kind of the same for you too.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've been, like I mentioned back when I was talking about RWBY, I just don't have anybody to talk about RWBY with, and it was killing me. So I just met up with a bunch of randos and talked about it there. So
by the way, I just for future reference, I love the term randos. I don't know where I first heard it, but I was using it with Dubs one time. He was like, randos? And I was like, yeah, just like random people. And I was like, that term is actually hilarious now that I think about it. I think of like Lando Calrissian and a bunch of randos. I don't know. Like it's.
It's definitely good for me to be able to talk about stuff that I enjoy with somebody else who enjoys it too. And
yeah, absolutely.
It'll be nice. It'll be a nice way to unwind for a couple hours a day.
Absolutely.
A couple hours a week,
A couple hours a week, yeah. It'd be great. Hopefully maybe, because if we get big enough, or even if we just if there's enough people listening that want to join in on the conversation, I mean, I wouldn't be against having guests sometime every now and then either, you know.
While if we have a topic that we know you like, we might ask you to come talk with us about it.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have Josh and his friend Artie on.
Because they're doing their Let's Play channel.
Yeah, we can sort of help each other and get a whole 4 people to listen to us. It'd be great.
A 300% increase.
Dude, yes. I don't know.
We are actually aiming for the only place left to go is space.
Pretty much, yeah. You know, I want to also try to make this a little bit more family friendly than my last podcast have been, because in the last podcasts were a little like language was anything.
Yeah,
goes.
I tried to be good about that. I also want to be family friendly because I'm recording in my house. My parents don't like that.
Yeah. I mean,
I just finished school, so I'm living in my parents' house so I can figure out what I want to do, if I want to try and get my own place or anything. But in the immediate aftermath of college, this is where I am, so I got to kind of adjust to my climate. And I think you don't have to be crass to make good content.
No,
so
I agree with that. I think it's fine if you are, like, because I love like Game Grumps and other stuff that use
Two best friends,
and they use a lot of foul language, and it can be really funny with it. You know, I'm not against that. And, you know, we used a lot of similar language in past podcasts, but, like, as a result, I couldn't really have my family listen to it because, like, they would not care for that very much.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But I want people to hear this. Like, my nephew's getting older. You know, I want him to be able to listen to stuff without, you know, being like, why is Uncle Alec using such naughty language? And be like, yeah, I don't know, kid. College does things to you. That's what I'd say.
Don't go
to college.
College will change you.
College will change you forever.
Go to college if you can. If you're able to, give it a try.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, just with all the loans I have, I'm living at my parents' house too, and I'm 2 years removed from Chris. So what does that tell you? And funnily enough, I'm in my parents' basement recording, so you can make whatever jokes you want about that right now.
Your mother's basement? Dude, have you watched any Mother's Basement YouTube content? All his like reviews and opening reviews?
I don't think so.
He's very insightful. I really like his content. You should check him out. He has a great Sword Art Online opening review. It's awesome.
I've been wanting to write my thoughts about that for the website I write for.
So in Sword Art Online, the 3 things you gotta do. You gotta watch Mother's Basement's opening theme review. You've gotta watch Digibro's manifestos on both seasons, and you have to watch the abridged series.
Mother's Basement. I'll have to check that out tonight.
Yeah, check those out after we're done recording.
That's great.
Speaking of, it's super late and I'm really hungry.
I am very hungry also. I had a great lunch today. We went out to dinner for my dad's birthday. Nice. I had an awesome steak and at Applebee's. I freaking love Applebee's. But yeah, I need like a cider or something, or maybe so.
We'll wrap it up here. We'll leave you guys until next week.
Yeah.
We'll be back with more content for you.
Yeah, I don't even know what to. I don't even know when I was doing YouTube videos or when I do YouTube videos. I don't know how to end those.
So you just kind of like and then they just cut. You stutter for 4 seconds and then hard cut to black and then end.
Yeah,
that's how you end things.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how I should end things. Be like, bye.
Cut off in the middle of like an so you just get like and then it's just done. And then just a black screen.
Yeah, black screen. Hold on the black screen for like a couple seconds and then
transition into the next video tile. That's how you end stuff. We're good. We've seen enough funny YouTube content to know how to.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, this probably when I upload this to YouTube, because I think we'll do that on iTunes. I think we'll have it on iTunes and on YouTube also. Mm-hmm. Maybe other places too. I'll have to look into that actually. Trying to put it on other places.
Our original episodes were on MediaFire. You could just download the MP3, but I think iTunes would be better, and then YouTube would also be good.
Putting it on there and like having, I don't even know what we do for a logo though. That's actually good.
I'll make one.
Oh yeah, okay. I could probably make one too now that I was thinking about it, because I've been learning some graphic design stuff at my new job.
Nice.
Sort of, a little bit, not really a whole lot of anything yet. I've mostly been doing production stuff, but yeah, that'd be actually pretty great.
And also, I'll talk to you more about music and stuff. We should definitely add music back in.
Yeah, as openings and endings for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Be great. But anyway, we've been waffling along long enough. We should end it.
End it. Go get some food.
Yeah. All right, man.
See you all next time.
Yeah. See you next time. Where's the off button on this thing?
Hot. That's how you end the podcast.
Thing. Wait a minute, where did it go?
This is where you slow fade out with music. So you just hear as the music builds up.
I'm hoping I don't know where the program is.
Uh-oh.
Let's see if I can find it. Here it is.
Yeah. So when you're editing this and you put in some music at the end,
dude,
see y'all next time, and the music starts to build, and then you just hear, where's the off button in this? And then you hear me go hot. That's how you end up